Phoenix Nights. Chapter 1266. The absolute majority of experts felt that this battle had ended. Only a minority hoped for a miracle to happen. They wanted Undying Underworld Emperor to die. And Emperor Summer, Drifter, and Limitless City Master were aware of the problem. This void domain has already covered the royal palace. Drifter is still in the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation and is very far away from my Summer Wind Ancient Nation. It is impossible for him to cover this area. Then it can only be this monarch Feishue. Emperor Summer watched from afar. The place where he fought with Underworld Emperor is very far away from my Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Yet his void domain could cover such a long distance? Or is he relying on a large number of avatars to execute his domain? In reality, even if he relied on his avatars, his domain was far from sufficient. Donghua Shui Ying's strongest avatar could only cover twice the area of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation by relying on a supreme secret impartation. And he could at most maintain 9 peak avatars. There were many huge places in the realm Heart Great Land. There were also vast oceans. For instance, the Icy Snow Ancient Nation was ridiculously huge. At one of the boundary regions of the realm Heart Great Land, Hong Long Long, at the end of the land was a surging storm. Beyond the storm was the membrane wall of the origin world. I've escaped to the end. Undying Underworld Emperor stood by the boundary of the storm. He did not care about the terrifying storm. Instead, he felt slightly nervous. The distance between this place and the place where they fought is more than half the entire realm Heart Great Land. There has never been anyone who could cover such a huge region just by relying on a domain. There are many boundary regions, and I've casually chosen this place. Even if Monarch Feishue has avatars, the possibility of me being discovered by his avatar domain is very low. Even if I were to be discovered once, I can escape again. As long as I escape out of his domain, he can't find me. Unless he can trace me. Humph, given my realm and my control over my soul, I can prevent my aura from leaking out. Only Limitless City Master could trace me. And Limitless City Master has never been willing to participate in huge karma. Undying Underworld Emperor softly nodded. He felt that the possibility of Monarch Feishue finding him was very low. Emperor Hades, where are you going? A voice rang out. Undying Underworld Emperor could not help but tremble. He turned over, only to see a white-robed young man wielding a black spear arriving through the void. He was none other than that Monarch Feishue. Accompanying his arrival was the merciless spear technique of Donghua Shui Ying. Undying Underworld Emperor had to ignite his heart blood to defend against several moves before tearing another path to escape. I've been discovered? Could it be that his avatar happened to be waiting here? Don't run anymore. Undying Underworld Emperor had just appeared in another forest by the boundary of Realm Heart Great Land when a spear chased after him. It struck Undying Underworld Emperor's body until it tore apart. His body rapidly condensed back into darkness before escaping once again. Run, run, run! Undying Underworld Emperor tried to escape more than a dozen times. Gradually, his heart turned cold. Because even if the doppelgangers were enveloped by the domain, how could it be so coincidental that every time they escaped, they would be within the domain? He can trace people? Or is Limitless helping him? Undying Underworld Emperor stopped. He stood at the edge of an ocean world. Turning around, he saw Donghua Shui Ying rushing over once again. At this moment, the eyes of Undying Underworld Emperor were filled with resolution. As he parried against Donghua Shui Ying's killing technique, he anxiously transmitted over. Monarch Feishue, do you want me to die? Then I'll let all living beings accompany me in death. Donghua Shui Ying stopped. He did not continue attacking. Instead, he stood in midair looking at Undying Underworld Emperor. Accompany you in death? I truly admire you. You can trace me? Or did you persuade Limitless City Master to help you? The eyes of Undying Underworld Emperor were filled with madness. His soul was trembling. That was a frenzied trembling before death. Even though you are stronger than me, I can similarly let all living beings accompany me in death. Given your current injuries, how long can you last? Donebush Shuang coldly said. You can try. Aren't you worried about those ants? Either you let me go, or I'll let all living beings accompany me in death. Undying Underworld Emperor growled. Donebush Shuang looked at this undying Underworld Emperor. This Underworld Emperor had indeed made him feel a strand of terror. Because this was a madman who had no worries. Furthermore, he was so strong that he was second only to Shuang. It was impossible for Shuang to allow the Yingshan clan and other people whom he cared about to hide in Feishua's city forever. But the moment they left, Undying Underworld Emperor might turn hostile in the blink of an eye. That would most likely result in another great massacre. I feel that letting you live will be a greater threat to the masses. Furthermore, I don't think you can kill too many cultivators in front of me. The eyes of Donebush Shuang flashed. The spear in his hand directly pierced out. Hong! Monarch Feishua! The mad roar of Undying Underworld Emperor reverberated across the world. Because Undying Underworld Emperor was constantly escaping, and Donebush Shuang was constantly chasing after him, their battlefields appeared across many places in Realm Heart Great Land. The disturbance caused by their battle was huge. The moment they fought, many experts in Realm Heart Great Land sensed it. They immediately turned to watch the battle. They had also seen the conversation between Donebush Shuang and Undying Underworld Emperor. Undying Underworld Emperor threatened Monarch Feishua with the words all living beings will die with him, yet Monarch Feishua still acted. Good! There were many experts who were cheering for Shuang when he acted. Including Emperor Xia and the other powerhouses, they all sighed. They were startled that Undying Underworld Emperor was still being chased after no matter how he tried to escape. They were also lamenting that Undying Underworld Emperor who stood above many cultivators would most likely die soon. Beautiful. In Southern Cloud Capital, Southern Cloud King who had been silent all this while finally spoke. He stared at the heaven observation mirror. When Undying Underworld Emperor escaped, he was afraid that Donebush Shuang could not chase after him. But when Undying Underworld Emperor chased after him, he became excited. When Undying Underworld Emperor threatened Monarch Feishua with the words all living beings will die with him, Southern Cloud King became worried that his disciple would be soft-hearted. Finally, is he finally going to be freed? This madman is finally going to die. Southern Cloud King watched with anticipation. Amazing. Truly amazing. I actually have such a junior disciple brother. The strongest expert in Realm Heart Great Land is actually my junior disciple brother. Monarch Greedy Ping sighed. He is so terrifyingly powerful. I am actually his senior disciple sister. Empress Ghostly praised from the side. Even Undying Underworld Emperor is about to be killed by Snow Eagle? Old Mother Yingshan felt that everything was like a dream. She could still remember clearly. That genius young fellow from the lineage of Marquis Ardent Fire from the Yingshan clan who was born as a void god. The rise of this genius young fellow was simply too amazing. That time, this young fellow even wanted the spearhead of the Scarlet Cloud God's spear, and it was she, Old Mother Yingshan, who bought it for him. After that, when the Ardent Fire City blood sacrifice happened, this Yingshan Snow Eagle, this prince, erupted with a terrifying combat power. He shocked the world with a single feat, and his name shook the Black Devil Four Nations and Black Devil Great Lake. A 10th level cultivator became an upper honored guest of the Fan clan. After becoming a cosmos god, he went to the Realm Heart God Palace and was killed by Eternal Night Primogenitor. Only then did he choose to remain low profile. This period of hibernation, instead, he acted with the identity of Heaven's Will Taoist, intimidating all devils under the world by himself. And now, he is even about to kill Undying Underworld Emperor. Old Mother Yingshan muttered. Such an absolute expert actually came from my Yingshan clan. At this moment, Old Mother Yingshan was filled with joy and pride. When Undying Underworld Emperor was constantly being chased, he could not escape. Donebush Shuang did not care about his threats. Many experts across the entire Realm Heart Great Land felt that Undying Underworld Emperor might really fall this time. Many were cheering and slapping the table. But Dongwu Shuang felt his heart aching because he had to pay a price in order to kill Undying Underworld Emperor. Die! Let us all die together! Undying Underworld Emperor escaped above a huge city before taking the initiative to attack. Hong! The surging void ocean distorted. It was doing its best to resist against the attack of Undying Underworld Emperor. Dongwu Shuang once again came over. Even though he specialized in domain suppression and was doing his best to chase after Undying Underworld Emperor at his fastest speed, a large number of beings were still killed. Many beings could not even react before they were killed. This made Dongwu Shuang even more furious. Even if he had to pay a price, he had to eliminate the other party. It seems he can't hold on any longer. Dongwu Shuang could ascertain that Undying Underworld Emperor was gravely injured. He should only be left with 20% of his life force. I can't hold on any longer. The current situation of Undying Underworld Emperor was much worse than what Dongwu Shuang expected. Because he had to ignite his heart blood every time he fought. Even after igniting his heart blood, he still had 30% to 40% of Dongwu Shuang's strength. If he did not ignite his heart blood, he would only have 10% to 20% left. That way, he would die even faster. My heart blood is almost gone. The golden flame heart in his body was left with a pitiful 3 droplets of blood. Undying Underworld Emperor felt slight despair. Chapter 1267. I have no other choice. I can only seek for life and death. Undying Underworld Emperor gritted his teeth. Even though he did not wish to choose, the moment he ignited his heart blood, Dongwu Shuang would have an overwhelming advantage. He would no longer have a choice. Hong hong! When a pair of golden palms parried against the terrifying spear, the surrounding night sky had already shattered. Many pitch-black cracks could even be seen on the other end of the chaotic origin dimension. Chaotic origin energy could be seen seeping in through the cracks. That was a higher dimension, a place where only existences at a higher level of life could truly live. So, Undying Underworld Emperor did not hesitate. He directly charged into the chaotic origin dimension through the cracks. Amen? Dongwu Shuang's expression changed. But he did not hesitate. With a so, he similarly entered the chaotic origin dimension. What? Undying Underworld Emperor has escaped into the chaotic origin dimension? That monarch Feishue is chasing after him too? They did not execute the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique. Instead, they are forcing their way in. Are they tired of living? One is chasing and the other is escaping into the chaotic origin dimension? Didn't they say that those who have not jumped out of the cage would be corroded by the chaotic origin energy after entering the chaotic origin dimension? What do you know? How strong is Undying Underworld Emperor? Ordinary unparalleled existences aren't his opponent. That monarch Feishue is even more amazing than Undying Underworld Emperor. Reaching their level, they should be able to survive for a short period in the chaotic origin dimension, right? The spectators across the entire realm Heart Great Land were dumbstruck. Killing his way into the chaotic origin dimension? Clearly, he was not seeking death. This had already surpassed their imaginations. In the opinion of ordinary cosmos gods, unless they had some unique movement techniques, they would definitely die if they entered the chaotic origin dimension with their fleshy bodies. Monarch Feishua's heart of killing Undying Underworld Emperor is truly heavy. Emperor Summer watched from afar. He sighed. But he knew that once his fleshy body charged out of the origin world, as long as he did not stray too far away, he could still survive for a period. For instance, his chaotic origin refinement body was a cultivation technique that relied on the chaotic origin energy to refine his fleshy body. What is the current situation of the two of them? Ancestor Fan asked from the side. He did not know how the battle was going. The Grey Emperor and the Sword Master looked towards the Xia Emperor as well. Have a look. Emperor Summer waved his hand, causing a scene to appear by the side. It was the scene that happened in the chaotic origin dimension. When Undying Underworld Emperor charged into the chaotic origin dimension, the surrounding chaotic origin energy was forced apart. Nevertheless, Dongbu Shuang, who wielded the Azure River Spear, chased after him at an even faster speed. Currently, in the entire realm Heart Great Land, only a few could watch the battle. Even the majority of unparalleled existences could not. Snow Eagle! In the southern Cloud Nation, old Mother Shan became anxious. Killed his way into the chaotic origin dimension? Impulsive, too impulsive. Southern Cloud King was incredibly worried. Even if he killed Undying Underworld Emperor, he might accidentally die in battle, leaving his chaotic origin weapon in the chaotic origin dimension. By then, it would be too late for regrets. In the realm Heart Great Land, unparalleled existences relied on supreme graded secret treasures. The reason why Dongbu Shuang could reach his current combat power was partly because of his chaotic origin weapon. Naturally, he still had his mirage and illusory realm technique. I don't know what's going on. I can't even see anything. I don't even know what would happen after killing my way into the chaotic origin dimension. Many experts were anxious and nervous. This was the life and death battle between the two most terrifying existences in the entire realm Heart Great Land. They wanted to know the outcome. Within the chaotic origin dimension, Hong Dongbu Shuang did not hesitate. He closely followed through the black crack into the chaotic origin dimension. After reaching the final realm, he spent 600 years consolidating his strength. During this period, he had tried creating the third level of chaotic origin refinement body. He had also taken the initiative to enter the chaotic origin dimension because it was normal at this level. When his Azure River Spear erupted, he could easily blast out an enormous hole that spanned 100 meters. Large amounts of chaotic origin energy surged in. It was not much different from being in the chaotic origin dimension himself. He sent an avatar into the chaotic origin dimension without bringing along his chaotic origin weapon. Because he had experience, Undying Underworld Emperor did not hesitate to enter the chaotic origin dimension. Hom! He entered once again. Even though he had experience, he was still stunned and obsessed by it. The Tao of Void was very unique. It was more suited to pry into the mysteries of the chaotic origin dimension than most Tao paths. As Dongbu Shuang charged in, he used his Azure River Spear to control the surrounding chaotic origin energy and split it apart. Nonetheless, the chaotic origin energy was endless. Some of it still touched his fleshy body. The moment it touched his fleshy body, it rapidly corroded away. His fleshy body was like air. The chaotic origin energy directly penetrated through his fleshy body and soul. The process of penetrating was also the process of corrosion. Because he had the Azure River Spear to control it. Furthermore, the final realm Tao of Void had reached an unfathomable stage in his control of voidification. Hence, he could minimize the corrosion of his fleshy body, causing the thin chaotic origin energy to have a weak effect on his chaotic origin refinement body. His recovery speed was sufficient for him to recover. Hoo! Realm Heart Great Land. This was an enormous origin world. It was vast. It was emitting endless ripples that were constantly clashing against the surrounding chaotic origin energy. In reality, the chaotic origin energy was also influenced by the power of the realm Heart Great Land. The closer one was to the realm Heart Great Land, the thinner the chaotic origin energy would be. The further one was, the deeper one went into the chaotic origin dimension, and the more vast the chaotic origin energy would be. The power of an origin world was extremely powerful. Hence, even if it was a chaotic origin life form, if they controlled an origin world and relied on that origin world, they would still be able to greatly improve their strength. After all, it was something that gathered an incomparably vast world energy into a single body. He really killed his way over. Undying Underworld Emperor glanced at Dongbu Shuang, who was chasing after him. His expression turned ugly. Then come! For the sake of killing me, are you willing to give up this avatar of yours? Once this avatar is gone, this chaotic origin weapon will be gone too. Undying Underworld Emperor continued charging forward in a frenzy. When he just charged out of the realm Heart Great Land, the surrounding chaotic origin energy was slightly less concentrated. Furthermore, the supreme law of the realm Heart Great Land was still affecting the surroundings, preventing the corrosion from being too strong. As he continued moving forward, the area ahead became darker and quieter. The chaotic origin energy became denser and denser. It was constantly scouring through the fleshy body and soul of undying underworld emperor. His fleshy body and soul were constantly being corroded. "You can't escape!" A furious roar actually reached the ears of undying underworld emperor through the chaotic origin energy. A spear had already smashed down in front of undying underworld emperor. So fast! Undying underworld emperor felt incredibly anxious and unwilling. That time when he left the realm Heart Great Land, it was because he obtained the opportunity to charge into the Tao of chaotic origin that he was bestowed with the movement technique by Yuan. That was how he could travel through the chaotic origin dimension. But after spending so much time in the external world, his fear towards the chaotic origin dimension had gradually decreased. He had even entered the chaotic origin dimension many times. He had experience. He even pondered over many techniques. He felt that compared to this new final realm expert, he should have some advantage when fighting in the chaotic origin dimension, even if the other party was a Tao of Void expert. But he was wrong. Firstly, Dongbush Shuang had acquired the chaotic origin Tao scroll before. This was a cultivation technique that Emperor Summer used the chaotic origin energy to cultivate his fleshy body. Dongbush Shuang had attempted to perfect it. He had even taken the initiative to enter the chaotic origin dimension before. Furthermore, using the chaotic origin energy to cultivate his fleshy body would be more effective when resisting against the denser chaotic origin energy. Secondly, the Tao of Void was the most advantageous in the chaotic origin dimension. No matter if it was voidification of the fleshy body to reduce the impact or flight speed, it could be used to great effect. Instead, it was other Taos that were significantly weaker in the chaotic origin dimension. Thirdly, the chaotic origin weapon Azure River Spear was able to control the chaotic origin energy, allowing Dongbush Shuang to survive for a longer period in the chaotic origin dimension. Due to these reasons, Dongbush Shuang was able to rapidly catch up to him. Pun! The spear came smashing down. Undying Underworld Emperor simply used both his hands to block the incoming force, allowing this powerful smash to send him flying further away. He was getting further and further away from the realm Heart Great Land, this enormous origin world. "Come if you are daring, come! Continue coming! Enter deeper into the chaotic origin dimension!" As Undying Underworld Emperor was flying backwards, he was still staring at Dongbush Shuang. He was becoming more and more frenzied. Chapter 1268. Dongbush Shuang felt that as he flew, even though he turned around, the origin world realm Heart Great Land was still very close behind him. But that was because the realm Heart Great Land was too huge. The location where they fought was still affected by the energy coming from the realm Heart Great Land. But as they flew at high speeds, they could feel the density of the chaotic origin energy continuously increasing. This density had far exceeded what he could use during cultivation. Fortunately, he had the control of the Azure River Spear, allowing the chaotic origin energy to form a path that minimized the corrosion. Hong hong hong! Dongbush Shuiying's speed was incredibly fast. He did not show any mercy the moment he caught up. As for Undying Underworld Emperor, he did not care about his life. Nevertheless, his fleshy body gradually changed color, turning grayish-white. "He can't hold on any longer." Dongbush Shuiying revealed a joyous look. He actually can't hold on any longer. Previously, the battle in the realm Heart Great Land has heavily injured me. If my body was in perfect condition, I could still hold on for a longer period." At this moment, many scenes flashed through the mind of Undying Underworld Emperor. Ever since he rose from being weak to become a hegemon in the realm Heart Great Land, he was dazzling. He struck fear in many experts across the entire realm Heart Great Land, thinking that he was the incarnation of death. His strength was even favored by Yuan. He was even filled with confidence when he stepped on the path to become a chaotic origin life form. He left his hometown. Only after he left did he understand that there was always a sky beyond the sky. Beyond geniuses, there were even more geniuses. he failed. Just like the majority of experts from civilizations, some died, and some were even exiled. It was already fortunate that he could escape back. Even after escaping back, I've met this monster, Monarch Feishue. Ignoring everything else, his soul technique is the most terrifying I've ever seen. Undying Underworld Emperor looked at Dongwu Shuang before grinning. That grayish-white face of his that was filled with a decaying aura caused Dongwu Shuang to be slightly startled. Dongwu Shuang had a premonition. So, Undying Underworld Emperor's body abruptly transformed into a dark light. He then began escaping. Escaping? You are still thinking of escaping at this moment? Even though the other party's body had been corroded to the point of death, the other party could still survive if he escaped. Swoosh. Dongwu Shuang instantly executed his great world destruction teleportation technique as well. After reaching the final realm, he was able to execute the great world destruction teleportation technique with his physical body. Phew. He chased after the position of Undying Underworld Emperor and soon caught up to him. 2 escape techniques. Clearly, the Void Dao's Great Destruction Realm Evasion technique was faster. Die! At the moment when he caught up to Undying Underworld Emperor, a spear lashed out at the body of Undying Underworld Emperor, blasting him out of the passage. While traveling, they couldn't be attacked. Dongwu Shuang naturally exited the passage as well. Chi. Even though Shuang was long prepared and had relied on the Azure River Spear to control the surrounding chaotic origin energy, he was still unable to do so. But the surrounding chaotic origin energy was too horrifying. Although it was just a blink of an eye, the distance between them was 1,000 times greater than when they were flying in pursuit at the beginning. Previously, they were still very close to the Realm Heart Great Land. But now, they were much further away from the Realm Heart Great Land. Dongwu Shuang relied on the Azure River Spear to control the chaotic origin energy, yet he could feel the surrounding chaotic origin energy becoming incredibly heavy. It was more than 1,000 times heavier than before. Large amounts of chaotic origin energy were sweeping across his fleshy body and soul, causing his fleshy body to be corroded. His skin had even turned grayish-white. This grayish-white was even permeating into his body. Instead, the damage done to his soul was much lower. Under this corrosion, even with the help of the Azure River Spear, my fleshy body can only last for a breath of time. My soul can instead last for a few dozen breaths. Dongwu Shuang immediately understood this point. South, he closely followed up. The spear in his hand rapidly pierced out. His spear expanded. Puchi, it directly pierced through the chest of Undying Underworld Emperor. Undying Underworld Emperor's fleshy body could no longer withstand the corrosion before executing his movement technique. At this moment, under this much denser chaotic origin energy, the insides of his body began collapsing. This spear pierced through him. He did not even have the strength to resist. Instead, his body completely collapsed. Pun! When he was pierced through, Undying Underworld Emperor stared at Dongwu Shuang. Following that, his body completely collapsed and dissipated within the chaotic origin dimension. The robe he was wearing had become tattered under the corrosion. Even his storage Eden treasures were similarly corroded, revealing many items within. Many items were also rapidly corroding. Only a few could remain intact in the chaotic origin dimension. For instance, unique materials like that chaotic origin life-form corpse or the crown of Undying Underworld Emperor. That was his supreme graded secret treasure, the Death Emperor crown. Who? Dongwu Shuang waved his hand. He controlled the void to keep these items. At the same time, he grabbed that Death Emperor crown with a single hand. He looked down at the Death Emperor crown. This was the supreme graded secret treasure that Undying Underworld Emperor used to shake the world. It was also the proof that he killed Undying Underworld Emperor. Relying on this, he would be able to intimidate the world. He could even kill Undying Underworld Emperor. How could those devils compare to Undying Underworld Emperor? Who? Dongwu Shuang immediately executed the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique. He rapidly teleported towards the distant Realm Heart Great Land. In a short period, his skin and part of his muscles had turned grayish-white. This corrosion speed was too fast. Emperor Summer, Drifter, Limitless City Master, and several other unparalleled existences were watching the battle between Dongwu Shuang and Undying Underworld Emperor outside the Realm Heart Great Land. In the end, the body of Undying Underworld Emperor turned grayish-white. He continued fleeing deeper into the chaotic origin dimension using his movement technique. They could no longer watch the battle. The body of Undying Underworld Emperor has been corroded to the point where it can no longer hold on. Monarch Fei Shui has really chased after him? They watched as Dongwu Shuang continued using the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique. They could not help but feel shocked. This time, he is determined to kill Undying Underworld Emperor. But isn't this too reckless? Even though one was chasing and the other was fleeing, in reality, they are still very close to the origin world of the Realm Heart Great Land. But now that he is using his movement technique, even if it is only for a moment, he would travel very far away. That is truly deep within the chaotic origin dimension. The corrosion over there is much more frightening. Given the current state of Undying Underworld Emperor's fleshy body, as long as Monarch Fei Shui slightly disturbs his movement technique, Undying Underworld Emperor would undoubtedly die. If Monarch Fei Shui chased after him, Undying Underworld Emperor would definitely die. But can Monarch Fei Shui return alive? Even though he has many avatars, this avatar of his has a chaotic origin weapon. Emperor Summer and the others became nervous. They took the initiative to form a screen, allowing Emperor Sun, Ancestor Fan, Sword Master, and other unparalleled existences to see it. Everyone was having a unique thought process. On one aspect, they were startled at the strength of Monarch Fei Shui. They felt that he could kill the previous #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land, Undying Underworld Emperor, to such an extent. Furthermore, he seemed to know the tracing technique that prevented Undying Underworld Emperor from escaping. Such a technique could kill Undying Underworld Emperor. Most likely, he could kill other unparalleled existences in the world. Even if Monarch Fei Shui had many avatars, he could still kill all the avatars of the enemies. The enemies could only survive if they hid their avatars in other origin worlds. Such a deterrent force, it was sufficient to frighten the world. Much less the devils, even unparalleled existences would feel pressured. It is fine if Monarch Fei Shui is powerful. More importantly, it is pointless to hide one's tracks in front of him. Emperor Summer sighed. Previously, an ordinary final realm expert could wreak havoc in the world precisely because the moment he concealed his tracks, even I can't trace him. The only one who could trace him, Limitless City Master, isn't willing to participate. It's just that Monarch Fei Shui doesn't just have the strength to kill, he also has the tracing ability. It is impossible to escape from him. But if he doesn't have his chaotic origin weapon, his deterrent force will be greatly reduced. Emperor Summer said. This time, he is still slightly rash in his pursuit. The reason why Dongwu Shuang dared to pursue after Monarch Fei Shui with his movement technique was because the corrosive effect on him was minimal. But Monarch Fei Shui usually wouldn't do things unless he was confident. Like previously when he tried to kill Undying Underworld Emperor, he didn't act because he could not invite Limitless City Master. Ancestor Fan said. Since he dared to chase after Monarch Fei Shui, he should be confident. If he killed Undying Underworld Emperor and brought the chaotic origin weapon back to the Realm Heart Great Land, that would be terrifying. Emperor Tsang sighed. I doubt there would be anyone in the entire Realm Heart Great Land who doesn't revere him. Yes. Emperor Summer nodded. Reaching that stage, he did not have the confidence to resist against Dongwu Shuang even in his territory in the capital. Even he, Emperor Summer, felt the same. Other unparalleled existences could not fight against this Monarch Fei Shui even in their territories. Amen? This is the unparalleled existences across the entire Realm Heart Great Land, and a large number of cosmos gods sensed it almost at the same time. Many heaven observation mirrors immediately turned towards the origin of that terrifying fluctuation. Hong! That was a figure that forcefully blasted through the membrane of the origin world, blasting out an enormous black hole spanning several hundred meters. The white-robed Dongwu Shuang held on to the Azure River spear in one hand and the Death Emperor crown in the other. Crown? Death Emperor crown? That is the Death Emperor crown of Undying Underworld Emperor. Seeing Monarch Feishue returning with the Azure River spear, many unparalleled existences felt their hearts trembling. The beautiful dream of this Monarch Feishue losing his Azure River spear was gone. After all, nobody was willing to have a terrifying existence that could threaten their lives appear above their heads. And many cosmos gods trembled when they saw that Death Emperor crown. They understood. That was the supreme graded secret treasure of Undying Underworld Emperor. One could easily imagine the fate of Undying Underworld Emperor when his supreme graded secret treasure fell into the hands of Dongwu Shuang. He is back! He is back! In Southern Cloud Nation, Southern Cloud King, Old Mother Shan, and others were incredibly excited. Terrifying! Undying Underworld Emperor is finally dead! He is finally dead! Many experts across the entire Realm Heart Great Land felt their hearts trembling. Yama Religion Master from Black Devil Great Lake looked at the Heaven Observation Mirror. That white-robed figure holding onto the Death Emperor crown with the Azure River spear in the other hand sighed. From today onwards, the Realm Heart Great Land has entered a new era. An era that belongs to Monarch Feishue, an era where devils no longer exist. End of this chapter, the 36th chapter, final chapter, ended. Tomorrow, they would stop updating for a day to plan the plot. The 37th chapter would be updated the day after tomorrow. Chapter 1269. Eternal Night Primogenitor and Extreme Night Primogenitor stood side by side. Their capes were fluttering in the wind. They were both watching the source of that terrifying disturbance, the black hole in the membrane wall of the origin world. A white-robed figure flew in from the black hole. He held the Azure River spear in one hand and the Death Emperor crown in the other. That unseen killing intent could be felt even from a great distance away. Fortunately, Eternal Night, you have lowered your head previously. Extreme Night Primogenitor chuckled. Otherwise, the next unparalleled existence to die after Undying Underworld Emperor would be you. Right. Eternal Night Primogenitor was watching too. His eyes were faintly filled with golden light. Fortunately, I have lowered my head. I expected that the moment he reached the final realm, he would be able to suppress Undying Underworld Emperor in the Tao of Void. Under his soul technique, my strength was greatly reduced. Even in the Eternal Night City, I would most likely lose my life. Who would have thought that even Undying Underworld Emperor was killed so easily? Even though there were some twists and turns in the process, the previous #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land had died so quickly. It was still too straightforward. Underworld Emperor is very formidable. At the very end, he used all sorts of techniques that I could not see through. I even felt that he was a huge threat. Extreme Night Primogenitor chuckled. It's just that his techniques are useless against Monarch Flying Snow. From today onwards, there is an additional deterrent spear above our heads. If we were to go back on our words, he could easily kill us. Eternal Night Primogenitor mocked himself. They were unparalleled existences. Even ordinary final realm existences were free and unfettered. Sometimes, they could do whatever they wanted. So what if they massacred an entire city? So what if they used blood sacrifice? Regardless, they were not afraid of anything. Nobody could threaten their lives. Even the high and mighty Yuan could not be bothered to care about ants as long as it did not affect the order of the entire Realm Heart Great Land. But now, they no longer dared to do whatever they wanted. It was pointless even if they hid in their territories. The territories had to construct many huge arrays. The more top-graded the array, the greater the price. After reaching the unparalleled level, they had to increase their strength further? The price was too high. Like Emperor Summer and Eternal Night Primogenitor, they were quite formidable in their territories, yet the increase in their strength would not be too exaggerated. That was because it was impossible for them to construct enough top-graded arrays endlessly. The weaker they were, the more exaggerated the increase. Ordinary Ultimate Realm cultivators did not have paramount secret treasures, so their combat strength was relatively weak. The help of the magic formation in the nest was more obvious. In the nest, he could have the combat power of the invincible realm. Just like Dongbush Shuang. Reaching his current stage, the price of constructing arrays suitable for his current realm and his territory was ridiculously high. It was hard to find materials that could withstand the seventh strike of the chaotic Origin 7 strikes. Undying Underworld Emperor felt awkward too. If he did not care about the price to construct his territory, the strength unleashed by relying on the territory might not be as effective as igniting his heart blood. What's more, even if they had to pay a huge price to build their nest and defend it, even if the effect was comparable to the burning of heart blood, Dongbush Shuang would send a large group of world lords to surround him, and he would still have to run for his life. Become stronger. Strange soul technique. It can also easily summon a large group of world lords. The invincible existences were all fearful and in awe. This shockingly talented monarch flying snow was absolutely the strongest final realm expert with the greatest deterrence in history. After killing Underworld Emperor, he took the initiative to blast apart the membrane of the Origin world, creating a huge disturbance. He even deliberately held on to the Death Emperor crown. It seems he is planning to intimidate the world. Following this, the realm Heart Great Land is going to change. Many experts could vaguely guess what would happen after seeing how Dongbush Shuang deliberately held on to the Death Emperor crown. Reality was as such. Other than the great devils who had long lowered their heads and sworn oaths, the other arrogant and egotistical existences originally wanted to observe the situation. They were not willing to lower their heads and swear oaths to bind themselves. But it was too late for them to beg for mercy now. Monarch, I am willing to swear an oath. Aye, too late. Monarch, I have stopped killing. I have never killed. But you have killed in the past. Just a single night. It caused the entire realm Heart Great Land to change color. Some of the famous devils on the list were at the Paragon Master level. As long as they did not lower their heads and swear an oath before he fought with Undying Underworld Emperor, they would be able to do so. They would no longer have the chance to do so. Humph. Dongbush Shuang stood in the night sky looking at the annihilated devil. If I were to spare you, who would spare the trillions and trillions of sentient beings that you massacred? Towards the devils including Eternal Night Primogenitor, Moonflower King, 8 Silk Island Master, and many other great devils, Dongbush Shuang wanted to kill all of them. Because the blood on the hands of these devils was simply too much. But previously, he did not have sufficient strength before he reached the final realm. Many great devils could guess that the moment this monarch Feishu broke through to the final realm, it would be their doomsday. Many came to lower their heads. If Shuang did not give them a chance to live, these great devils would likely turn mad. Hence, they could only compromise. As long as he lowered his head and swore an oath, he would let bygones be bygones. Now, I have the power to punish. Beg for mercy? Dongbush Shuang's heart was extremely cold. Without killing enough, how are we going to intimidate the later generations? How do we change the era? Cosmos God-level devils would either lower their heads and swear an oath, or those who did not would be exterminated. After the terrifying day known as the Devil Extermination Night, the atmosphere in the entire realm Heart Great Land changed drastically. In the entire realm Heart Great Land, there was no longer any blood sacrifice. Because only the few apex devils knew how to refine the essence of blood spirit. Since they did not dare to do evil, it was meaningless to sacrifice countless sentient beings. Moreover, there was no such devil who dared to court death. Once the demon was discovered, he would definitely die. There was no need for Dongbush Shuang to make a move. Many experts who could not stand the sight of evil took the initiative to attack. Times have really changed. He has truly changed the entire realm Heart Great Land. Many cosmos gods could not help but be startled as they watched the transformation of the realm Heart Great Land. As time passed, in the realm Heart Great Land, many new generations of cultivators were startled. What? There was a blood sacrifice in the past? A city with trillions of sentient beings was directly massacred by the blood sacrifice? Is this real or fake? The great devils in the past could easily kill trillions of sentient beings? That's impossible! How could there be such a crazy devil? They did not believe it since they had never seen it. Because the current realm Heart Great Land was a devil that everyone wanted to kill. The moment a devil was discovered, there would be a group of cultivators who would take the initiative to kill them. All of them had a strong sense of justice. In reality, before the rise of Dongwu Shuang, the so-called devils could only be considered small fries in the gathering grounds of those devils. Wretched green old devil, you can't escape from us. Many training teams have been wiped out one after another. The few of us thought that it was someone who met danger and died. Who would have thought that it was you, you old devil? You should just die. 7 figures chased after a green-robed old man who was fleeing in panic. And on top of a mountain far away, 2 figures were currently standing there. One was the white-robed Dongwu Shuang, and the other was the loose black-robed Emperor Summer. The 2 of them stood side by side as they watched everything happening. Haha, Fei Xue, you are truly amazing. It seems like it was just yesterday that you killed Undying Underworld Emperor. Currently, the atmosphere in the entire realm Heart Great Land has completely changed. Previously, I did not dare to imagine that the realm Heart Great Land would turn into what it is today. Emperor Summer chuckled. Even this person is called an old devil? He is even being chased after by others. What do you mean it was just yesterday? It has been more than 200 billion years. Dongwu Shuang could not help but retort. To Emperor Summer, it might be a short period, but to him, Dongwu Shuang, it was a relatively long period. 200 billion years. That was sufficient for many generations of primal chaos geniuses to rise. Currently, the number of sentient beings in the realm Heart Great Land was much more than in the past. Because a small city was relatively safe, it was rare to see even primal chaos devils. 200 billion years is indeed a short period. Emperor Summer sighed. But speaking of which, I quite like this world. The 37th chapter, On the Road, began. The new chapter had just begun, and one had to spend more time thinking and preparing. Chapter 1270. I like this kind of world as well. Dongwu Shuang stood at the top of the mountain, looking at the vast world around him with a smile on his face. In the past, he had wanted to change the entire world so that demons could no longer run amok. Even he himself had thought that this goal was too far away. In fact, there weren't many who thought highly of him. At that time, the experts in Realm Heart Great Land were already used to the order of that era. They were used to how final realm experts were free and unfettered, and nobody could threaten them. However, everything changed. But do you see the danger behind us? Emperor Xia asked. Hidden danger? Dongwu Shuang was taken aback. Population. Although the rate at which cultivators reproduce is very slow, and generally speaking, it is safer to live within cities. Cities have limited space as well. However, after 200 billion years, more and more cities were being built, and the number of cultivators was also increasing. The burden on the realm Heart Great Land is getting bigger and bigger. According to what I know, the realm Heart Great Land is different from other origin worlds. Other origin worlds would experience a great apocalypse, and everything would return to the beginning. But the realm Heart Great Land is created by Yuan. It is an eternal existence, and it would not be destroyed by the great apocalypse. Nevertheless, the population keeps increasing, and it is impossible for the realm Heart Great Land to withstand it indefinitely. Dongwu Shuang nodded. Yes. Now that 200 billion years have passed, the additional burden is still within the scope that the realm Heart Great Land can endure. But as this continues, there will be a day when the realm Heart Great Land retaliates. Emperor Summer said. Or perhaps Yuan has set a new law. Regardless, he will definitely suppress the population of the entire realm Heart Great Land. Haha, Yuan has set the rules. He won't massacre everyone directly. Dongwu Shuang said. For instance, the Realm Heart God Palace prepared opportunities and supreme-graded secret treasures for the final realm cultivators. Clearly, Yuan still left plenty of opportunities for the weak. The Xia Emperor nodded slightly. The two of them did not say anything else, because they could not tell what Yuan would do. Perhaps it would be more merciful, such as directly changing the rules and making it much more difficult for cultivators to reproduce. It was naturally difficult to expand the population like this. It could also be even crueler, where the strong preyed on the weak. Everything was possible. Let's go. The two of them immediately vanished into thin air. In the Fan Clan Magic Mountain. Teacher, I've flipped through the scriptures within the clan and know that our Fan Clan has the Burning Heart God Tree. It is of great help to those who cultivate in the Tao of Soul. Currently, I am just a step away from breaking through to the Cosmos God realm. Is it possible for me to cultivate under the Burning Heart God Tree? A young man asked the black-robed old man by his side. Heart-burning divine tree? The black-robed old man glared at him. My Fan Clan is currently benefiting from that monarch Fei Xue. Our treasures and opportunities have increased by quite a bit. How about this? I will send you to the Illusion Demon Hall. As for the Burning Heart God Tree, you can forget about it. The youth hastily said. Why? I flipped through the books, and it was recorded in the books that ever since the Patriarch created the non-phase mystical technique under the Burning Heart Divine Tree, he rarely used the Burning Heart Divine Tree to cultivate. The disciples in the clan should be able to exchange for it, but I couldn't find this item on the exchange scroll. That's right, the black-robed old man said. Now, that Imperial Emperor Fei Xue is cultivating under the Burning Heart Divine Tree. Emperor Fei Xue? The youth's eyes widened. Monarch Fei Xue. Currently, his influence in Realm Heart Great Land was too huge. He was publicly acknowledged as the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land. That was someone who forcefully climbed to the top after killing the previous #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land, Undying Underworld Emperor. It made unparalleled existences and ordinary Final Realm cultivators tremble in fear. Many cultivators worship this monarch Fei Xue. For instance, the Summer Wind Ancient Nation had a good relationship with monarch Fei Xue, allowing them to obtain many benefits. Currently, their reputation was even stronger than the Myriad Realms Ancient Nation. Do you understand now? I'll send you to the Illusion Demon Hall. As for the Burning Heart God Tree, don't think about it temporarily. Wait until that monarch Fei Xue leaves. By then, you will have a chance. The black-robed old man persuaded. Teacher, you said that monarch Fei Xue is in our Fan Clan Magic Mountain? I have been living here, yet I did not know about it. The young man was incredibly excited. Teacher, can I pay a visit to him? When he was young, he had grown up listening to the stories of this monarch Fei Xue. Pay a visit? Monarch Fei Xue is currently meditating and cultivating. Do you think we can disturb him? The black-robed old man snorted. Old Ancestor has already ordered us not to disturb him. Oh. The young man felt his heart itching when he heard that. Teacher, can you tell me where is the Burning Heart God Tree? The young man asked. The black-robed old man shook his head with a smile. He pointed in a direction. Over there. The young man looked afar. His eyes were filled with excitement and expectation. Over there, over at the Fan Clan Magic Mountain, the #1 expert in Realm Heart Great Land, monarch Fei Xue, was currently cultivating there. In reality, the majority of Cosmos gods knew that monarch Fei Xue had a close relationship with the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. For instance, monarch Fei Xue and Emperor Summer would frequently discuss the Tao together. The two would occasionally drink wine together, and would occasionally appear at a certain location in Realm Heart Great Land to spar. The two of them were final realm experts in the Tao of Void. Furthermore, both of them had obtained a supreme-graded secret impartation. Hence, it was of great help to the other when they interacted. For instance, the relationship between monarch Fei Xue and Ancestor Fan had long been known. Ancestor Fan had even deliberately spread the news to let all Cosmos gods know that monarch Fei Xue had an avatar cultivating on the Fan Clan Magic Mountain. This made many Cosmos gods feel envious and jealous because they desired to interact with this monarch Fei Xue. Because monarch Fei Xue was not only powerful, his influence in Broken Teeth Mountain Range was huge, and he had many treasures and opportunities. Did they not see how Emperor Summer, Ancestor Fan, Paragon Master Bewitching Sword, and Emperor Tsang benefiting from this? Did they not see how Southern Cloud King could walk unhindered? Did they not see how Old Mothering Shan had broken through to the Cosmos God realm? Who, under the burning heart god tree, a white-robed Donghua Shuang sat cross-legged. The violet leaves were drifting down with the wind. He opened his eyes. They were filled with a strand of regret. I still haven't succeeded, Donghua Shuang muttered to himself. That time when I observed the thousand-eyed water droplet was too short. If I could comprehend it thoroughly, I might have created the third Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm killing technique. Such a long period. He had already explored the sky-floating islands with the mysterious eyes and broken teeth mountain range. He had also memorized the structure of the illusory realm world within those mysterious eyes. That time, he finally comprehended the first Tao of Mirage and illusory realm killing technique according to the structure of the illusory realm world of the Grey Eyes, resplendent illusory realm. Because the golden eyes had scoured through the entire place, 80 billion years after he killed Undying Underworld Emperor, he created the second Tao of Mirage and illusory realm killing technique, illusory realm killing intent. Just as I expected, these two killing techniques can't be used against a single enemy at the same time. Donghua Shuang shook his head. The resplendent illusory realm was used to lure the enemy into falling into oblivion. The illusory realm killing intent was used to destroy the soul of the enemy. Even if it could not kill the enemy, it would injure them. The two were entirely different illusory realms. The soul of the enemy could only enter the same illusory realm at the same time. Unless my illusory realm could contain both resplendent and killing intent at the same time. But that is too difficult. Donghua Shuang wanted to see the thousand-eyed water droplet again. Because the structure of the thousand-eyed water droplet was a vast thousand-eyed world. Great Emperor North River. When Donghua Shuang thought of this, he felt slightly unwilling. If he had the thousand-eyed water droplet, he might have created the third killing technique. The third killing technique was a perfect fusion of the previous two killing techniques. He might even be able to reach the final realm in the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm. Of course, it might not be that easy to reach the final realm. He had to overcome many obstacles. But at least by creating it, his understanding of the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm would deepen by another level. But all of this was destroyed. This great Emperor North River has entered the Snake-Tooth Corridor and never returned. Donghua Shuang thought, is he afraid of me taking revenge? That is why he is staying inside. As long as the energy within the thousand-eyed water droplet is exhausted, he would have to come out. Otherwise, he would never come out. Even if he came out, the thousand-eyed water droplet would most likely dissipate because of the energy within it being exhausted. Thousand-eyed water droplet. During these years, Donghua Shuang had visited many sky-floating islands, yet he had never obtained a single thousand-eyed water droplet or snake-tooth bead. In history, it was hard to obtain these two supreme treasures. Most of them were obtained by the 5 great supremes. Previously at the Black Leaf Lake, there was only a suppression directed at the soul. There were no other dangers. That was why he could obtain a thousand-eyed water droplet. Am I not fated to obtain another thousand-eyed water droplet? Forget it. Even if I don't, I can still create one. Perhaps this way, I can deepen my understanding of the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm. Donghua Shuang could only console himself. He calmed himself down and continued cultivating, pondering over how to fuse the two killing techniques of the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm. Chapter 1271. Feishu's City, Monarch Residence. Under a pavilion by the lake, Donghua Shuang and Emperor Summer were seated opposite each other. The two were currently discussing about Tao. The chaotic origin refinement body is something I created. Younger brother Feishu, you must believe me, Emperor Summer anxiously said. Using the chaotic origin dimension as the mother to nurture and condense a fleshy body, I believe the moment it is formed, it would become a fleshy body at the chaotic origin life form level. This Tao is the true Tao. We have tried many times. Furthermore, I feel that if we want to take a single step from the final realm to directly possess a fleshy body at the chaotic origin level, or even become a chaotic origin life form, isn't it too easy to become a chaotic origin? Dongwu Shuang added. I feel that it isn't that easy to break through using force. I don't think it is easy. Using the chaotic origin dimension as the mother to nurture and condense a fleshy body is inherently difficult. I hope that Brother Feishui can help me. The two of us can study this Tao together. Emperor Summer said. Using the dimension as the mother, this first step is something I can't take. Dongwu Shuang shook his head. Emperor Summer, you and I will walk our own path. Let's see who can ultimately create the true third level of the chaotic origin refinement body. Emperor Summer could not help but shake his head when he heard that. During these 200 billion years, the two of them frequently discussed about Tao. What they talked about the most was the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body in the chaotic origin Tao scroll. This cultivation technique was originally created by Emperor Summer. It's a pity that Emperor Summer had only created the first two levels of the chaotic origin refinement body. Dongwu Shuang had a supreme secret impartation chaotic origin 7 strikes. He had many unique techniques to fuse the Tao of void and chaotic origin energy. Hence, he had already perfected the original foundation of Emperor Summer. After reaching the final realm, he even wanted to create the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body. Furthermore, ever since he created his soul-killing technique, his soul had influenced his fleshy body. This gave him some direction to improve his fleshy body. The two of them had gained a lot from their exchange. Because Emperor Summer had a supreme secret impartation that was also related to the Tao of Void Blossom. Dongwu Shui Ying's supreme secret impartation was the chaotic origin 7 strikes. It was a perfect match with the chaotic origin weapon Azure River Spear. The two of them had different supreme secret impartations. Moreover, either of them could leak their supreme secret impartations, so they could only clash with each other in terms of their train of thought. They communicated for a long time. The two of them were still fine at the start. They had even created the initial version of the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body. This was an imperfect version. Even if it was incomplete, it still allowed their fleshy bodies to reach a level comparable to Grand Perfection Kings. In other words, just by relying on their fleshy bodies, they had the strength of unparalleled existences like Eternal Night Primogenitor. Because they had created the first edition, the two of them were full of fighting spirit, and saw the hope of jumping out of the cage. The two of them often communicated and studied together. However, gradually, there were still disagreements. And the divergence was getting bigger and bigger. How difficult is this path? If I walk alone, how will I be able to break through it? If the two of us work together, you and I might be able to break through together. Emperor Summer sighed. He discovered that Dongwu Shui Ying's talent was incredibly high. He was able to find many breakthroughs in the body cultivation aspect. If he, Emperor Summer, were to explore by himself, even though he had the supreme secret impartation Void Flower Blossom, he could achieve the first step of using the chaotic origin dimension as the womb. But condensing a fleshy body was the hardest step. He did not have the confidence to do so. He wanted to pull Dongwu Shuang along with him on this path. But Dongwu Shuang clearly wanted to walk on a path he was confident of. We have sufficient time to walk our own paths. If I fail in the future, I'll try the path you, Emperor Summer, pointed out. Dongwu Shuang chuckled. His talent in body cultivation was not that high. It was only after he created the Tao of Mirage and illusory realm killing technique that his soul underwent a qualitative change that allowed his fleshy body to evolve. His soul was strong. It also influenced his fleshy body. And these influences allowed Dongwu Shuang to see the direction he could take to break through and perfect it. The two of them temporarily put down their differences. They continued discussing about their understanding of the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body. And then? Suddenly, Dongwu Shuang stopped. He looked afar. What is it? Emperor Summer felt puzzled. It was not convenient for him to forcefully investigate within Feishue's city. A guest has arrived. Dongbua Shuang chuckled. A figure condensed in the distance. It was a tall and thin male in white robes. That tall and thin male descended. He bowed respectfully. Jia Fu greets Monarch Feishue. You are? Dongbua Shuang asked. He could recognize with a glance that this was an expert native of Broken Teeth Mountain Range. But he did not know who he was. After all, he was just an initial emperor. There were many of them in Broken Teeth Mountain Range, and he was not famous. I am an attendant under Supreme Vast Ancient. The tall and thin male chuckled. I am here under the orders of Supreme Vast Ancient to invite Monarch. Supreme Vast Ancient? Dongbua Shuang was startled. I wonder what matter Supreme Vast Ancient has for me. This I do not know. It is Supreme Vast Ancient who ordered me to invite Monarch. The tall and thin male said. Supreme Vast Ancient wishes to see you. Why haven't you gone yet? The Xia Emperor laughed. Fine. Dongbua Shuang nodded. He immediately created a clone, which said to the tall and thin male, Let's go. Let's go see the autarch. He immediately used the Great World Break teleportation technique and arrived at the borders of the vast ancient world. Dongbua Shuang and the tall and thin male, Xia Fu, appeared. Xia Fu glanced at the surroundings, then said, Monarch Feishue, please follow me. Supreme Vast Ancient. Dongbua Shuang pondered to himself. He had interacted with the 5 autarchs over the past 200 billion years. This was because he really wanted to comprehend the thousand-eyed water droplet. Most likely, only the 5 autarchs possessed such a supreme treasure that could allow them to enter the snake-tooth corridor. Thus, he went to visit them one by one. The 5 autarchs gave him face, and at the very least, all of them met him. Unfortunately, when he mentioned that he wanted to comprehend the thousand-eyed water droplet without using up any of its energy, and even agreed to leave his clone in the autarch's cavernous state to do so, all 5 autarchs said that they did not have any thousand-eyed water droplets. When he had sought out Supreme Vast Ancient's temper had been quite good, and he had said, I do have a snake-tooth pearl, but I don't have a thousand-eyed water droplet. Throughout history, there have indeed been more snake-tooth pearls than thousand-eyed water droplets. To date, including the one you discovered, Monarch Feishue, there are only 3 publicly known thousand-eyed water droplets, and they have all been used up in the snake-tooth corridor. Swoosh! Swoosh! The vast ancient shrine. As one of the 2 autarchs of the natives, Supreme Vast Ancient's influence went without saying. This shrine was heavily guarded with many guards. But Dongbua Shuang was unobstructed throughout his journey. Those guards and even god generals were relatively respectful towards Dongbua Shuang. They knew that this Monarch Feishue was not only powerful in his soul technique, his close combat strength was also ranked in the front amongst god generals. Greetings, Supreme. Dongbua Shuang saw an existence in the distance. He immediately bowed. Monarch Feishue is here. Supreme Vast Ancient sat there looking at the vast void. He pointed to a stone stool by the side. Come, sit. Dongbua Shuang walked over and sat down. At this moment, Supreme Vast Ancient had completely concealed his aura. His expression was simple and cold. Being able to conceal his aura meant that he was very polite. Otherwise, if he released his aura, it would be like an incomparably horrifying fireball. Dongbua Shuang would feel uncomfortable even with his current strength. After all, even though his fleshy body had a breakthrough, allowing him to reach the initial version of the 3rd level of chaotic origin refinement body, he was merely at grand perfection king realm. I wonder why Supreme is looking for me? Dongbua Shuang asked. Because he no longer had to rush to the sky-floating islands. Usually, he would not leave any avatars in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range. If there was anything, he could just ask his subordinates to look for him in Feishue's city. I've mentioned before that I have a snake-tooth bead, Supreme Vast Ancient said. Yes. Dongbua Shuang nodded. Supreme Vast Ancient flipped his hand, causing 2 smooth and round black beads to appear in his palm. These 2 black beads were incomparably deep and serene. It would attract the gaze of others into it. The more one looked at it, the more one would feel that these black beads were like a vast world that was devouring everything. Dongbu Shuang was naturally able to stabilize his heart with his current strength. But he was still startled. He could not help but ask, 2 snake-tooth beads? Right, 2. Supreme Vast Ancient nodded. I originally had 1 bead. I wasn't in a rush to visit the snake-tooth corridor since I've been there several times before. I wanted to make sufficient preparations before going again. However, I didn't expect that just a few days ago, when I was exploring some sky-floating islands, I would come across another snake-tooth bead. Congratulations, Supreme Vast Ancient, Dongbu Shuang said. Some sky-floating islands were indeed filled with great dangers that he could not enter, but Supreme Vast Ancient had a chance to do so. Snake-tooth beads and thousand-eyed water droplets were generally located in extremely dangerous places. I can give you one of these snake-tooth beads. Supreme Vast Ancient looked at Dongbu Shuang. You're giving me such a supreme treasure for no reason at all? Dongbu Shuang smiled as he looked at the Supreme Vast Ancient, but in his heart he began to feel nervous. Who wouldn't want to enter the snake-tooth corridor? Supreme Vast Ancient continued. You must enter the snake-tooth corridor with me. Once inside, you must listen to all of my instructions. Supreme Vast Ancient, please tell me what I need to do. Dongbu Shuang wasn't angry at all. It would be strange if Supreme Vast Ancient didn't have strict requirements for giving him such a supreme treasure. But no matter what, entering the legendary forbidden area of the snake-tooth corridor was a cause for celebration. Chapter 1272. Emperor Feishue, what you need to do is very simple, Autarch Vast Ancient said. Follow me into the snake-tooth corridor. After that, you must listen to my instructions. You cannot act on your own. But don't worry, the snake-tooth corridor is filled with many dangerous areas that require the protection of the snake-tooth pearls. Once the energy within the snake-tooth pearls is used up to a certain point, I'll have to return. If I can't return to the Broken Teeth Mountains before the pearls run out of energy, I won't be able to return. Dongbu Shuang understood this. The snake-tooth corridor was incredibly dangerous, especially the whirlpools at the entrance and exit. There was no way to resist them on one's own. One had to rely on the power of the snake-tooth pearls or the thousand-eyed water droplets. One had to rely on the power of the snake-tooth pearls to enter and exit. If the snake-tooth pearls ran out of energy on the way out, they would probably lose their lives to the whirlpools of the corridor. That's why I have to return when the snake-tooth pearls have roughly 30% of their energy remaining. Autarch Vast Ancient smiled as he looked at Dongbu Shuang. You, however, are different. You have many clones, and you can continue to roam the snake-tooth corridors until the snake-tooth pearls run out of energy. Even if your clone doesn't return, it won't affect you, right? Dongbu Shuang nodded. Before I return, you have to listen to my instructions. Once I return, you will be free to roam the corridors, Autarch Vast Ancient said. Do you agree to my request? Haha, the Autarch is willing to give me a supreme treasure like the snake-tooth pearls in exchange for sending a clone to help me. To me, the more the better. Dongbu Shuang laughed loudly. Autarch Vast Ancient instantly revealed a smile. He felt that Emperor Feishue probably wouldn't refuse, but he was also afraid that Feishue would be too arrogant and unwilling to listen to orders. How many of my clones do I need to enter? Dongbu Shuang asked. A single clone is enough, Autarch Vast Ancient explained. The snake-tooth pearls can only protect a single clone. Understood. Dongbu Shuang nodded. He had countless clones. It was a minor matter if one of his clones dissipated in the snake-tooth corridors. Being able to go in for a trip was exactly what he wished for. Before gifting the snake-tooth bead to Imperial Monarch Feishue, please swear an oath, Imperial Monarch Feishue, Autarch Vast Ancient said. He did not dare to easily trust Dongbu Shuang for such a supreme treasure. All right. Dongbu Shuang was straightforward and immediately swore an oath. Autarch Vast Ancient was in a good mood as well. He knew that cultivators still attached great importance to oaths. Autark Vast Ancient had long since made his preparations, while Dongbush Shuang had merely sent a clone. There was no need for him to make any preparations at all. On the same day, the two of them set off for the Snake-Tooth Corridor. Boom, boom, boom! The two of them directly arrived near that terrifying black maelstrom in the Snake-Tooth Corridor. The tearing force of the maelstrom was too strong. The rumbling and ripples it produced made Dongbush Shui Ying's heart tremble slightly. Just the sound alone was not enough, but the unseen ripples formed by the maelstrom were able to penetrate through the fleshy body and soul, causing fear to rise in Dongbush Shui Ying's heart. Looking up at that incomparably towering snake head that was the size of the territory of Southern Cloud Nation, a terrifying chaotic origin life form with strength close to the level of Yuan. Even if it has died for an unknown period of time, its remnant might is still so unfathomable. Terrifying, truly terrifying. Furthermore, the head of an ordinary snake would only occupy a small portion of its body. Even if this chaotic origin lifeform's body proportions are different from ordinary snakes, the proportion of its body occupied by the snake head should still be small. If the snake head is so huge, how big would its body be? The snake head was as big as the Southern Cloud Nation. How long would its body be? Even though the Summer Wind Ancient Nation seemed huge, much bigger than the Southern Cloud Nation, that was in terms of surface area. In terms of the length of the nation, it was merely a few times bigger. The length of the body of this snake was likely much longer than the territory of the Summer Wind Ancient Nation. Who is that? Supreme Vast Ancient? Monarch Feishue? There were also observers arranged by the 5 great supremes around the Snake-Tooth Corridor. They soon discovered Dongbush Shuang and Supreme Vast Ancient. One was a supreme, and the other was the famous Monarch Feishue. These observers naturally did not dare to disturb them. Every time I look at it from a close distance, it feels incomparably shocking, Supreme Vast Ancient said. This innate chaotic origin life form has an unfathomably huge body. As for Yuan and other chaotic origin experts, they started off weak and small. Their bodies might be comparable to us, yet they are so strong that they are much stronger than this terrifying chaotic origin life form in front of us. Just thinking about it makes me feel envious. Dongbush Shuang nodded. Go, let us enter, Supreme Vast Ancient said. Don't worry. As we get closer to the Snake-Tooth Corridor, the energy within the Snake-Tooth bead will naturally be activated. So. The two of them rapidly flew towards the black maelstrom. As they flew closer, Dongbush Shuang felt the Snake-Tooth bead in his bosom causing some unique changes. At that moment, the Snake-Tooth bead began emitting a faint black light. This black light revolved around the surface of Dongbush Shui Ying's body. And the surface of Supreme Vast Ancient's body was similarly covered by a faint black light. They have entered. Supreme Vast Ancient and Monarch Feishue have both entered the Snake-Tooth Corridor. The observers watching from afar were incredibly startled. It was fine for Supreme Vast Ancient to enter, but even Monarch Feishue had entered the Snake-Tooth Corridor? The observers sent by the other 4 Supremes immediately transmitted the news to the Supremes of the various clans. The news spread. Many Supremes received the news. They have all entered. Monarch Feishue has also entered the Snake-Tooth Corridor? Since they entered together, it seems Supreme Vast Ancient has given Monarch Feishue a token of entry. Is Supreme Vast Ancient planning to investigate the consciousness region this time? Supreme Thunder Firmament could not help but frown when he received the news. This Vast Ancient fellow. He actually has 2 supreme treasures of entry. His luck is truly amazing. The other 4 Supremes were all envious. The Snake-Tooth Pearl and the Thousand-Eyed Water Droplet were both very difficult to obtain. Obtaining one was one thing, but obtaining 2 was simply too difficult. Supreme Vast Ancient had a Snake-Tooth Pearl to begin with. He had just wanted to make ample preparations before entering. Who would have thought that during this period of time, Dongbush Shuang would first rise to prominence, and then Supreme Vast Ancient would be lucky enough to obtain a Snake-Tooth Pearl. And so, this trip was made possible. The other Supremes could only feel envious. Rumble. Explosions rang out incessantly. As soon as they flew into the vortex of darkness, they were immediately torn apart, unable to control their bodies. All they could do was be swept into the vortex. Fortunately, their bodies were protected by the black light. Although this black light seemed thin, no matter how the outside world tore at it, it was unable to break through. However, Dongbu Shuang could sense that the vast energy contained within the snake-tooth pearl was slowly being consumed. Swoosh! Supreme Vast Ancient and Dongbu Shuang could only follow the devouring force and follow the flow. They rapidly fell into the snake-tooth corridor. As they advanced within the vortex, even space was distorted and shattered. Their speed was incredibly fast. But the interior of this snake's bloody mouth was simply too huge. After all, the entire snake-tooth head was comparable to the territory of the Southern Cloud Nation. Just by being swept along, it lasted for an hour before the tearing force of the vortex began decreasing. Very soon, both Supreme Vast Ancient and Dongbu Shuang regained control of their bodies. Are we currently in the mouth of a snake? Dongbu Shuang looked around. With a glance, he saw an enormous snake tooth in the distance. The snake tooth was emitting a terrifying aura. Don't stay here for too long. The wind here is exhausting the energy of the snake tooth pearl. Supreme Vast Ancient urged. Continue forward. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Actually, as the power of the vortex decreased, the consumption of the snake-tooth pearl was much lower. But clearly, Supreme Vast Ancient cared about every bit of energy. So! Supreme Vast Ancient brought Dongbu Shuang along as they flew at high speed into the mouth of the snake. They had to fly for a long time before they could fly past an enormous snake tooth. This tooth was taller than the mountains in Realm Heart Great Land. Where are we going? Dongbu Shuang asked. You just have to follow me. You'll know when we reach there. Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled. He was clearly familiar with this place. He had been here several times before. Along the way, he was not willing to waste any energy. He brought Dongbu Shuang along at high speed. Chapter 1273. Every snake tooth was as tall as a towering mountain. They emitted an endless austere aura that instilled fear in Dongbu Shuang's heart. This was normal too. The snake teeth were originally the weapons these terrifying chaotic origin lifeforms used against their enemies. Why was the Broken Teeth mountain range named Broken Teeth? It was because there was a broken tooth in this vast mountain range. That was also the tallest mountain peak in Realm Heart Great Land. This Broken Tooth mountain peak was rumored to have injured that tooth of Yuan. That was why Yuan chose to do so. Amen? Dongbu Shuang discovered the transformation too. Under the lead of Supreme Vast Ancient, he flew at high speed. They had already passed by 8 snake teeth. On the left, there were 2 rows of snake teeth. On the right, there were also 2 rows of snake teeth. In other words, there were a total of 4 rows of snake teeth in the mouth of this snake. Currently, only 8 teeth had flown past them. One could see how slow they were. The first 8 teeth are emitting a dark aura that makes others palpitate. And this snake tooth in front of me is giving off an endless feeling of sharpness. Dongbu Shuang watched with bewilderment. Looking afar, there was a towering huge tooth. Further ahead, there was another tooth with a sharper shape. The aura it emitted was entirely different too. As they flew, Dongbu Shuang discovered that the aura of every 8 teeth would change once. Even the shape of some teeth would change. After flying for half a day, he saw more than 80 snake teeth. That is? Dongbu Shuang's eyes brightened. There was a new towering black snake tooth that appeared in the distance. Yet there were many void cracks around it. Tao of Void? He sensed it. This newly appeared snake tooth contained the fundamental usage of the Tao of Void. Furthermore, it was at a higher level. For a moment, Dongbu Shuang felt an itch in his heart. He wanted to go closer and explore. Monarch Feishue, I know you have reached the final realm in the Tao of Void. The nearby autarch Vast Ancient glanced off into the distance as well. He sent mentally. These 8 snake fangs do indeed contain many mysteries of the Tao of Void, as well as many opportunities within them. However, entering them will require the energy of the snake-tooth pearls. You'd better follow me obediently. It won't be too late for you to come back after I return. Don't worry. Since we have an agreement and I have sworn an oath, I will not go back on my word, Dongbu Shuang said. It's good that you understand. Supreme Vast Ancient didn't say anything else. Actually, he understood what the opportunities within Snake Tooth Corridor signified for a cultivator. That was why he intentionally warned them. He could not afford to waste his energy for Dongbu Shuang. 8 void snake fangs. Really? As Dongbu Shuang flew, the more he looked, the more tempted he felt. In fact, even from afar, he could vaguely sense something. Once I'm done accompanying Audiobook Vast Ancient, I'll definitely come back to investigate this place. So. The two of them continued flying. Not counting the snake fangs that they could not see clearly in the dark vortex, after flying past a total of 120 snake fangs, Dongbu Shuang and the others finally reached a fork in the road. A fork continued forward, and another fork led upwards. Follow this way. The corridor was very wide. It was growing calmer and calmer. Every so often, a wild wind would blow past them, causing the power of the snake-tooth pearls to be slightly depleted. Audiobook Vast Ancient and Dongbu Shuang continued to fly upwards, but Dongbu Shuang had a pensive look on his face. He immediately asked, Audiobook, when we entered, the power of that dark vortex was simply too terrifying. We were unable to control our bodies, much less fly. All we could do was follow it in. How are we supposed to leave, then? There's no way we can go against the vortex and leave, right? Haha, of course there's no way we can go against the vortex. The vortex is the entrance. We enter through the serpent's mouth. The exit is through the nostrils of the serpent, Audiobook Vast Ancient said with a laugh. The serpent's mouth forms a vortex that sucks in air, while its nostrils emit air outwards. It's just that the power of the vortex is obscured by it. So that's how it is. Dongbu Shuang nodded. To Emperor Feishue, there's probably no need for him to leave at all. Audiobook Vast Ancient laughed. That is, unless he obtains some sort of unique treasure that he wishes to bring out. The corridors were formed by the serpent's head, and there were many forked paths along the way. But of course, many of the nodes were very stable. In fact, there were some places that weren't affected by the winds at all. The power of the snake-tooth pearls wouldn't be depleted at all. As the corridor grew narrower and narrower, Dongbu Shuang couldn't help but ask, Where are we going? We're almost there. Audiobook Vast Ancient smiled. You'll know soon enough. Don't be too surprised. Surprised? Dongbu Shuang had no choice but to suppress his curiosity. Although the corridor was growing narrower and narrower, it was still more than 100 million kilometers wide. Still, compared to the size of the serpent's head, it was quite thin. In front of them was an enormous blood-colored membrane that blocked their path. Although it was called a blood-colored membrane, it was actually filled with countless streams of light that flowed through it like an enormous waterfall of blood. Let's go through it! Audiobook Vast Ancient was rather excited. Swoosh! The two charged straight through the blood-colored membrane. The blood-colored membrane did not obstruct them at all. Instead, a unique energy swept through their bodies. It was very unique. The blood-colored membrane was also very thick. They flew for a few breaths of time before they completely penetrated through it. We're here! Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled as he stopped. Shuang looked at the scene in front of him in shock. It was a vast space. Within this space, there were many veins that were emitting warm light. These veins intersected with each other. There were also several hundred huge light lumps scattered within this space. Every light lump was connected by a vein. Even though the light lumps were huge, there were still differences in size between them. Where is this? Dongbu Shuang felt puzzled. According to the distance they flew, he deduced. Is this the snake brain? The snake brain is much bigger than this space. More accurately speaking, this should be the consciousness of this terrifying chaotic origin life form. Supreme Vast Ancient said. Consciousness? Dongwu Shuiying was startled. The consciousness of a life form would always be the most unique. Go, let us first head to the first light lumps. Supreme Vast Ancient was filled with anticipation. He brought Dongwu Shuiying along as they continued flying. The veins in the consciousness were even thinner. Even though the two of them were flying through the thickest vein, it was merely 500,000 kilometers wide. The veins had intersecting nodes too. But at the nodes, it was extremely quiet. There was no invasion from the black wind. That's right, within the consciousness, there were still black winds howling and invading the bodies of Dongwu Shuiying and the others. After flying for a moment, only then did Autark Vast Ancient stop at a certain node. He pointed at a ball of light in front of him. I'll wait for you here. Continue forward. Enter that ball of light. I can sense that ball of light calling out to me, drawing me in. But every light lump in the consciousness of the snake has a suppressive force on the soul. Some are strong and some are weak. I can't enter this light lump in front of me. Its level of suppression is comparable to the Black Leaf Lake. I believe you should be able to enter. Oh? Dongwu Shuiying was enlightened. The light lump in the consciousness had a suppressive force on the soul? No wonder the other party asked him to come. Remember what you said in the oath. Listen to my orders, Supreme Vast Ancient said. After you enter, bring out everything you can bring out. If you hide anything or don't do your best to bring it out, you will be violating the oath. Supreme Vast Ancient reminded him again. The reason why he gave a snake-tooth bead to Dongwu Shuiying was for the other party to help him. All right. Supreme can be rest assured. By then, you can search my body after I come out. Dongwu Shuiying chuckled. What a joke. How could some external objects make him violate the oath? Even a chaotic origin weapon was not qualified to make him violate the oath. After all, the moment he violated the oath, his cultivation path would most likely be severed. Who? Shuiying flew along the thinner meridian pathway towards the light ball in front of him. Hoo. The black wind was also howling. As it blew on his body, a thin layer of black light easily resisted against it. It's just that the energy in the snake-tooth bead was being consumed at an extremely slow pace. And then, when he was just 500,000 kilometers away, he could already feel a suppressive force on his soul. As he got closer, this suppressive force on his soul rapidly increased. I do want to see what exactly is within this light lump. Dongwu Shuiying curiously flew over. Countless black-armored soldiers dissipated like bubbles, and in a short period of time, other than Dongwu Shuiying, there were only 13 figures left. Apart from the black-armored and cloaked figure sitting on the throne, there were 12 taller black-armored generals who were still in good condition. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. These 12 were able to resist the illusions and were clearly much stronger. Bang, bang, bang. All of them attacked with daggers, and their attacks were strange and unfathomable, even surpassing Dongwu Shuiying's understanding. His defensive methods were completely useless. Those daggers were like phantoms that pierced through his defenses and directly attacked his body. However, the black light protecting his body tenaciously blocked these attacks. I'm afraid that even if a sovereign came, he would not be able to resist them with his own strength. Dongwu Shuiying's expression changed slightly. Right at this moment, Dongwu Shuiying was shocked to discover that countless black-armored soldiers had appeared on the desolate plains far away. They appeared again after being destroyed? Dongwu Shuiying quickly used his movement technique. The movement techniques of Void Dao experts were also incredible. The attacks of the 12 black-armored generals were clearly strange and powerful, but their movement techniques were very clumsy. Dongwu Shuiying executed his illusions, sweeping through the countless black-armored soldiers. At the same time, he used his movement technique to pounce towards the black-armored figure on the throne. After all, his target was the black dagger that the black-armored figure was playing with. That dagger was emitting a majestic energy, and it should be the origin of this world fragment. South, the black-armored soldiers dissipated like bubbles, and were soon reborn. And those black-armored generals were constantly being shaken off by Dongwu Shuiying. Dongbush Shuang relied on the black light protecting his body to forcefully block them. Hand it over! Dongbush Shuang charged towards the throne. His figure was like a specter as a myriad of figures appeared. Every figure was real, just that they existed on a different plane of space. The myriad of figures pounced towards the throne at the same time. Boom! The black-armored figure played with the dagger. Finally, he laughed coldly as he brandished the black dagger in his hand. Sila! A dagger slashed across Dongbush Shuang. Boom! Dongbush Shuang only felt his consciousness rumble. By the time he woke up, he discovered that his body was already outside the world fragment. That strike had blasted him out. I'm out! Dongbush Shuang sensed for a moment, and his expression changed. That strike actually consumed so much of my snake-tooth bead's energy? Although that strike with the dagger had saved his life by relying on the black light protecting his body, it had consumed an enormous amount of energy. It was roughly 1% of the snake-tooth bead's energy. He looked at the world fragment in front of him. The world fragment was still a blur. The only thing he could see was the most dazzling source of the world fragment, that black dagger. As for those soldiers, generals, and black-armored figures, they could not be seen clearly from the outside world. What's going on with those soldiers? Why are they still reborn after being killed so many times? That black-armored figure is also ridiculously strong, Dongbush Shuang muttered to himself. But before he entered, Supreme Vast Ancient had reminded him that anything could happen within the world of light in his sea of consciousness. As long as he, Dongbush Shuang, could successfully bring the item out, it would be a huge success. Let's enter again. Dongbush Shuang attempted to enter the world fragment of the black dagger once more. Rumble! After entering the world fragment, he once more descended upon the desolate plains. What appeared before him was still the same countless black-armored soldiers, as well as the black-armored figure who was fiddling with the black dagger on the distant mountain throne. It was as though nothing had changed. The gazes of all the figures landed on Dongbush Shuang. Clearly, they were about to launch another attack. Let's go. Dongbush Shuang chose to give up without hesitation. Given his attainments in the Tao of space, he was able to easily leave this world fragment. The world fragment of the black dagger is too dangerous. Dongbush Shuang glanced at the other 6 world fragments. His gaze landed on one of the enormous world fragments. The source of this world fragment was a fiery red feather. Dongbush Shuang guessed that it would be relatively easier. He made his decision based purely on instinct. South. He directly flew towards the world fragment of the fiery feather, and was once again absorbed into it. This was also a world fragment. The borders of the world were filled with nothingness, and in the center of the world was a gigantic tree. At the top of the tree floated a fiery red feather, and 3 birds were circling around it. On top of the gigantic tree, there were also a large number of birds resting. Similarly, the moment Dongbush Shuang entered the world fragment, all the birds turned their heads to look at Dongbush Shuang. Their eyes were filled with savagery and rage. In an instant, an ear-piercing screech rang out. Formless ripples spread out, causing the black radiance on the surface of Dongbush Shuang's body to tremble slightly. At the same time, the energy of the snake-tooth bead was also being depleted. Destroy! Shuang immediately unleashed his mirage and illusory realm, directly enveloping this broken world. At that moment, the birds on that huge tree all dissipated with a pu sound under the illusory realm, leaving behind only the 3 birds that were clearly stronger than the other 3 flying around the fiery red feather. There are only 3 birds left, and there's no one controlling this feather? From the looks of it, it seems to be slightly easier than the black dagger's world fragment? Dongbush Shuang muttered to himself. At the very least, there were a total of 13 existences in that world fragment that could still exist under his illusory realm. This world fragment seemed to be slightly weaker. Chapter 1275. Only 3 flying beasts circling around the fiery red feather were left. The 3 flying beasts stopped and stared at Dongbush Shuang. Among them, the largest green flying beast let out an ear-piercing screech. Screech! Ripples that could be seen with the naked eye swept out in the direction of Shuang in a fan shape. They were rapidly expanding, and in a blink of an eye, they had swept across about 20% to 30% of this world fragment. Naturally, Shuang was also affected. Even though the black protective light around his body isolated the ripples, just hearing the sound was unbearable. South, south! The other two flying beasts turned into streams of light and charged over. The large green flying beast stopped beside the fiery red feather to protect it. Pung pung! The flying speed of these two birds was unfathomably fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived right in front of Shuang. Shuang did not have the time to evade before he was slapped by the birds and sent flying far away. At the same time, Ying's body immediately turned into a myriad of figures. He began executing his Tao of Void techniques to confuse his opponents. So. These two flying beasts continued to attack. They swept past all the figures and left none alive. Even though they were very fast, the thousands of figures were enough for Dongbush Shuang to dodge and execute some confusing techniques. Their techniques are very powerful, but they seem very stupid? Dongbush Shuang thought. Previously, his opponents in the Black Dagger World Fragment were also very stupid. If he did not go, they would be like statues. Their attacks were also the same. South! Dongbush Shuang rapidly flew towards the fiery red feather. Those two flying beasts seemed to have woken up. They flashed and returned to the fiery red feather. They worked together with the large green flying beast to surround the fiery red feather and defend against all enemies. Bang bang bang! Both sides clashed. Dongbush Shuang relied on the prowess of the black protective light and tried to snatch the fiery red feather time and time again. As for the three flying beasts, they only needed to move within a small area. Although their attacks were clumsy, they were able to disrupt Dongbush Ying's attacks. Try to confuse and divide them. Dongbush Ying's heart ached. Every time it collided with his snake-tooth bead, he would either split into many clones, teleport through the void, or even cast mirage and illusory realm killer moves at the same time. After doing this hundreds of times, his arm expanded and he managed to grab hold of that fiery red feather. The moment he grabbed the feather, the broken world suddenly began to distort. It was as if a stone had been thrown into a calm lake, causing it to tremble. Along with the tremors, the fragmented world suddenly disappeared completely without a sound. It was like a dream. He disappeared just like that, without a trace. Dongbush Shuang stood in the void, holding the fiery red feather in his hand as he looked at the other 6 floating world fragments. The world fragment is gone just like that? Dongbush Shuang mumbled to himself. What are those birds? Are they illusions? No, it can't hurt me. Boom! Just as he was pondering, there was an invisible force within the light orb dimension that directly repelled Dongbush Ying's body, repelling him out. Eh? Dongbush Ying's body swayed as he stabilized himself and landed on the meridian pathway. Ha ha ha, I'm out. Monarch Facia, hurry, come to me. Far away, at the node of the meridian pathway, Supreme Vast Ancient saw Dongbush Shuang coming out. Especially when he saw the fiery red feather in Dongbush Ying's hand, his eyes instantly lit up. He was incomparably excited as he hurriedly called out. When Dongbush Shuang heard it, he immediately flew towards Supreme Vast Ancient. Supreme, what's going on with this light orb dimension? Why is it so strange? Dongbush Shuang was extremely puzzled. At the same time, he lowered his head to look at the fiery red feather in his hand. The temperature of this fiery red feather was extremely terrifying. Fortunately, his body was protected by the black light. Hurry, give it to me! Supreme Vast Ancient urged. Here. Dongbush Shuang handed the feather over. Autarch Vast Ancient accepted it, then carefully controlled the flow of the black light around his body to reveal his right hand. His right hand was completely unprotected, and he gently grabbed the fiery red feather. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Although the fiery red feather was extremely hot, Autarch Vast Ancient's right hand was completely red and surrounded by flames. His right hand, however, was completely unharmed. Good, very good. What sort of majestic power is this? Supreme Vast Ancient was incomparably excited. The power of fire. Dongwu Shuang watched from the side. He didn't train in the Tao of Fire, and although the auras of the Black Dagger, and the fiery red feather and the light orb dimension were extremely mysterious and unfathomable, Dongwu Shuang could tell that they were most likely related to the Tao of Fire. Clearly, Supreme Vast Ancient was extremely excited and delighted. Supreme Vast Ancient waved his hand, placing the fiery red feather into his robes. He then smiled as he looked at Dongwu Shuang. Monarch Feishue, it's all thanks to you this time. If it were me, I wouldn't have been able to enter at all. Who would have thought that you would actually succeed in getting it? What exactly is the situation within the light orb dimension? Dongwu Shuang asked. Why is it so strange? I've faced some opponents who would be reborn after being destroyed. They might seem illusory, yet they are incredibly strong. I can't say for sure either. Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled. But you should know about the Sea of Consciousness. Usually, our souls would cultivate within the Sea of Consciousness. And this huge snake is an incomparably terrifying chaotic origin life form. Its Sea of Consciousness is even more unique and strange. It's just that it has already fallen, and its soul dissipated. Nevertheless, this Sea of Consciousness is still incredibly mysterious. Sometimes, it would hide some tangible items. At other times, there might even be some memory fragments. Dongwu Shuang nodded. But as long as you get any item within the light orb dimension, you will be expelled out. You can't enter the same light orb dimension anymore. Supreme Vast Ancient said. I guess this should be a rule set by Yuan, forbidding us from taking more. Amen. Dongwu Shuang nodded. Previously in that dimension, he vaguely felt that the strangest thing was that black dagger. It's a pity that the difficulty of obtaining it was too high. After all, that black armored caped figure had directly grabbed hold of the black dagger, and easily forced him out of the world fragment with a single strike. But Supreme, Dongwu Shuang said, only after I entered did I discover that encountering danger within the light orb dimension would rapidly consume the energy of my snake-tooth bead. You are waiting at the node while I'm risking my life inside? I would consume the energy of my snake-tooth bead even faster. Who knows, by the time you return, the energy of my snake-tooth bead would have been completely consumed. That way, I wouldn't be able to explore the places I wish to go. Isn't this slightly unfair? The vow had been set. Even if Supreme Vast Ancient did not return, he would still have to listen to his orders. But since he could talk, he would naturally have to do so. Supreme Vast Ancient was startled. He laughed out loud. Rest assured. You have already helped me obtain an important item. As long as you succeed in obtaining 2 more items, you can move freely. There's no need to care about me anymore. He was already very satisfied with obtaining 1 item. If he could obtain 3, that would be worth celebrating. Moreover, Supreme Vast Ancient also knew that entering the light orb dimension was not easy, as it would suppress one's soul. It was even harder to obtain items within it. In fact, some of the light orb dimensions didn't have any items at all, just some memory fragments. Very well. Dongwu Shuang nodded, a smile on his face. After obtaining 3 items, the Supreme Vast Ancient would allow him to move freely. That meant that he would abide by the oath and listen to the instructions of Supreme Vast Ancient. Come, let's go to the next location. Supreme Vast Ancient smiled. He had already made arrangements. They would go to the light orb dimensions one by one in order of importance. The two flew along the glowing vein-like pathways, passing through one node after another. These vein-like pathways crisscrossed, leading to the various light orb dimensions. Just as the two were flying, I failed again. Damn it! A rather angry voice rang out as an azure-robed figure flew out of a light orb dimension, a cold look on his face. Clearly, he had come out empty-handed and was very disappointed. Eh? Dongwu Shuang and Supreme Vast Ancient, who had been flying, were both startled. They turned to look. The azure-robed figure seemed to sense something as well, and he turned to look as well. Their gazes intersected. Supreme Vast Ancient Monarch Facia? The azure-robed figure was stunned at this moment. Great Emperor North River? Dongbu Shuang was slightly stunned too. Chapter 1276. Even though Great Emperor North River had entered the Forbidden Ground Snake-Tooth Corridor for more than 200 billion years, there were still many places within the Snake-Tooth Corridor that were extremely safe. For instance, there were many nodes within the corridor that the violent gales could not reach. Or like the light ball dimension. If Dongbu Shuang did not take the initiative to enter the realm fragment, he would not suffer from any attacks. Staying in such a safe place would naturally not consume any of the power of the snake-tooth bead, thousand-eyed water droplet. He could cultivate for as long as he wanted. Supreme Vast Ancient and Imperial Monarch Facia? How could it be so coincidental for me to meet the two of them? Great Emperor North River felt his heart trembling. He even subconsciously thought that it was Monarch Facia who came to take revenge. After all, seizing a precious treasure like the thousand-eyed water droplet was enough to make a great Emperor realm expert fight to the death for it. But then he rejected the idea. Autarch Vast Ancient and Imperial Emperor Facia needed two supreme treasures to enter. It would not be because of a little hatred. I didn't expect Sovereign Zun and Monarch Facia to come to the Broken Teeth mountain range as well. What a coincidence to bump into them. Great Emperor North River revealed a grin. He chuckled. Monarch Facia, I am truly ashamed of what happened previously. I was too eager to seek for treasures. Moreover, you promised to give me the thousand-eyed water droplet in the end. I'm just getting it ahead of time. Even though I've destroyed one of your clones, you have countless clones, so you won't suffer any losses at all. Humph. Dongbu Shuiying's expression sunk. He stared at the distant Great Emperor North River who stood on top of the channel emitting light. When Great Emperor North River saw this, he immediately added, I know that breaking the agreement has angered Monarch Facia, and I've made amends too. As long as the Imperial Monarch doesn't mind, I have a supreme secret treasure here that I'm willing to give to the Imperial Monarch. Please don't be angry. Dongbu Shuang did not have any favorable impression of this Great Emperor North River. Back then, he had agreed to help because he didn't want to see a large number of native worlds go through a calamity. Great Emperor North River had already promised Shuang many benefits for helping him acquire the black leaf flowery dew. Yet in the end, Shuang did not give him anything. Instead, Great Emperor North River destroyed his avatar. Dongbu Shuang had long seen through him. This northern river was too ruthless. For the sake of his own path, he would do anything. Emperor Facia. The nearby Autarch Vast Ancient laughed. North River bullied you to such an extent. Now that we've run into him here, it's our destiny to destroy him. If you don't object, how about we deal with him? Supreme. Great Emperor North River's expression changed drastically. He exclaimed, Why must Supreme force me like this? Dongbu Shuang was also taken aback. Eliminate Great Emperor North River? The three of them all had the power of the snake-tooth bead, thousand-eyed water droplet, to protect themselves, but this did not mean that they were invincible. This was because this protective energy was only activated due to the influence of the entire forbidden area, so it could only be used to protect one's body. It couldn't be used to attack. If he could attack, he would have easily obtained the black dagger in the orb of light space. Because he couldn't attack, the power of the snake-tooth bead, thousand-eyed water droplet, was like a heaven-defying armor on the surface of his body. No matter how heaven-defying the defense of the armor was, once they were hit, they would still be sent flying. Hence, when Dongbu Shuang and the others were sucked into the dark maelstrom, they could not stabilize their bodies and were sucked into the snake-tooth corridor. In other words, the moment Dongbu Shuang, Supreme Vast Ancient, and Great Emperor North River fought, they would similarly be sent flying. If Supreme Vast Ancient fought Great Emperor North River one-on-one, even though Great Emperor North River would be at a disadvantage, he could still barely control the situation. But the moment Dongbu Shuang unleashed his soul technique, that protective black light could no longer protect his soul. As a result, Great Emperor North River's combat strength would be greatly reduced. The gap between them would be like the gap between a god general and a supreme. With such a huge gap, it was a one-sided trampling. Most likely, he would be blasted into nothingness by the side in just 1 or 2 moves. One had to know that they were flying along the corridor. Why? Because there were many regions outside the corridor where the gale was blowing. Hence, the energy consumption of the snake-tooth bead, thousand-eyed water droplet, was greater. Furthermore, the gap in strength was too huge. Supreme Vast Ancient could easily capture Great Emperor North River alive before sending him to some dangerous locations. That way, the energy of the thousand-eyed water droplet in his body would be depleted. When the energy was exhausted, it would also be the time of Great Emperor North River's death. Supreme Donghua Shuang felt startled in his heart. Supreme Vast Ancient was not willing to waste a single bit of energy the moment he entered the snake-tooth corridor. And now, he was willing to waste his energy to deal with North River? How could he understand? Firstly, Supreme Vast Ancient knew that Great Emperor North River had always been arrogant in the past. The reason why he gathered the 36 god generals was because he wanted to compete with the Supremes for resources. Supreme Vast Ancient was already unhappy about it. Even though he could suppress Great Emperor North River, he could not resolve the issue. This time, with the help of Donghua Shuang, it was much easier for him to resolve the issue. Secondly, he had already obtained that fiery red feather. This time, his harvest in the snake-tooth corridor was sufficiently huge. Supreme Vast Ancient did not mind consuming some energy from the snake-tooth bead. Furthermore, Supreme Vast Ancient wanted to make use of this opportunity to show his favor to Donghua Shuang so that Donghua Shuang would work harder for him in the future. Monarch Feishue should react? Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled. Donghua Shuang no longer hesitated when he saw that. All right, Supreme. Many thanks. So. Supreme Vast Ancient and Donghua Shuang both turned into streams of light at the same time. They charged towards the distant Great Emperor North River. How ruthless! Vast Ancient, you are planning to rely on Monarch Feishue to get rid of me, right? Great Emperor North River gritted his teeth. He followed along the meridian pathway and fled in another direction. Nonetheless, Supreme Vast Ancient brought along Donghua Shuang. Hence, his flying speed was clearly much faster. So, one was chasing and the other was escaping. Even though there was a relatively long distance between them, it was clear that the distance was getting shorter. I can't care anymore. Great Emperor North River looked behind him. He rapidly passed through the nodes of the meridian pathway and entered a fork in the path towards a light ball dimension. Escaping into the light ball dimension? Donghua Shuang felt puzzled. Escaping into it would lead to a dead end. And then? Unless. Supreme Vast Ancient squinted his eyes. So. Great Emperor North River did not hesitate to rush into that light ball dimension. Donghua Shuang and Supreme Vast Ancient followed closely behind. Donghua Shuang was startled at the moment he entered. This light ball is huge. It should be the biggest in the entire consciousness, yet it doesn't feel any pressure at all. Who? After penetrating through the membrane wall of the light ball dimension, they arrived at the internal space. Donghua Shuang could not help but widen his eyes the moment he entered. He could not help but gape. Even with his current experience, he was completely stunned. This was practically the most shocking scene he had ever seen since he was born. This. Donghua Shuang watched in a daze. Standing in the void of the inner space, with a glance, he could see the surrounding membrane walls emitting a strange rhythm. Through these membrane walls, he could actually see the Broken Tooth mountain range outside the Snake Tooth corridor. Furthermore, the Broken Tooth mountain range he saw from this light ball dimension was entirely different from the past. An incomparably huge meandering snake appeared in his vision. This place within the Snake Tooth corridor forbidden ground was the head of the snake. The serpent's body was faintly discernible as it meandered through the entire Broken Teeth mountain range. The native worlds were actually spaces that were born from the faintly discernible body of the giant serpent. Each of these worlds relied on the giant serpent's corpse to exist. On the other side, that similarly towering thousand-eyed existence had dozens of claws, and its body was covered with thousands of eyes. The entire corpse was faintly discernible, yet it was nearly complete. Those sky-floating islands were part of this huge being's body. Just like those gray eyes and golden eyes, they corresponded to different positions on the corpse. Every strange tree had a mysterious eye at the top. In reality, those strange trees were actually tiny veins within the huge corpse. Trying to pluck the mysterious eyes from an almost complete corpse was equivalent to plucking away the eyes within the corpse. It was too difficult to destroy the corpse of such a terrifying existence. Naturally, not a single eye could be brought away. There were many mysterious items on these sky-floating islands that would cause one to suffer from a terrifying suppression just by touching them. The entire Broken Tooth mountain range is actually formed from the corpses of two terrifying chaotic origin lifeforms. Dongbush Shuang was incomparably startled. Many sky-floating islands were formed on the corpse of the thousand-eyed creature. And many native worlds were formed on the body of that huge snake. No wonder he felt a terrifying suppression the moment he stepped on the sky-floating islands. Even the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique was useless. One had to know that this technique could be executed in the chaotic origin dimension, yet it could not be executed on the sky-floating islands. Clearly, it had been suppressed by the remnant energy left behind by the corpse of the thousand-eyed creature. Many experts from various races are searching for the two strongest corpses of chaotic origin lifeforms in the legends. You cultivators should be searching for them too. But practically none of you know that the entire Broken Tooth mountain range is formed from these two corpses. We are always on top of these corpses. Even though Supreme Vast Ancient had seen this scene more than once, he was still mesmerized by it. And the distant Great Emperor North River did not care about the beautiful scenery. He had already seen it. Instead, he was looking at Dongbush Shuang and Supreme Vast Ancient warily. Chapter 1277. Dongbush Shuang originally had many perplexities about the Broken Tooth mountain range. For instance, it was like many sky-floating islands and had many vile environments. For instance, there was a lump of fog with a strong corrosive power that could kill unparalleled existences. Its threat was much stronger than that of great emperors. There were many similar environmental threats. Instead, unparalleled existences could still fight against the Death Destruction Clan's emperor on an island and survive. But the environment was so vile. It was slightly unfathomable. Because the realm Heart Great Land was created by Yuan, and the overall environment was relatively safe. According to the legends, the Broken Tooth mountain range was created by Yuan. Even if it was a trial, why did he create so many vile environments that were so strong? The price to create such a dangerous environment was not small. In reality, those environments did not serve as a trial. Instead, it depended on luck and experience. For instance, sending avatars to die to accumulate experience. That was not helpful to the trial of strength. Why did Yuan spend a huge price to create such an environment without any trial at all? In the legends, there were many dangers in the Broken Tooth mountain range that were teleported over by Yuan from other places. Regardless, there were many explanations. But thinking about it carefully, there were still some contradictions. So it seems. So it is formed from two corpses. Dongbush Shuang understood. That's right too. These two terrifying chaotic origin existences are huge. A single corpse is roughly 1/10 the size of an ordinary origin world. With such huge corpses, it is only natural for two of them to form the vast Broken Tooth mountain range. Dongbush Shuang nodded. The corpses were 1/10 the size of an ordinary origin world. In reality, the length was even more exaggerated. For instance, that huge serpent had a body longer than an origin world. Its corpse was meandering. Even so, it covered the entire Broken Tooth mountain range. But these two corpses should have been executed by Yuan. Dongbush Shuang thought. For instance, the Snake Tooth Corridor. For instance, The Broken Tooth Mountain Range and Realm Heart Great Land had set down a rule that those who reached a certain level could not enter the Realm Heart Great Land. The Thousand-Eyed Water Droplet and Snake-Tooth Bead were two supreme treasures that could only be activated after entering the Snake-Tooth Corridor. Naturally, it was easy for the two corpses to evolve a world and set down rules. Powerful! What a powerful technique! Shuang said. He finally understood how an existence like Yuan could create a vast world. Yuan is naturally formidable. Even according to some legends that we have heard, he is an apex chaotic origin expert. Autarch Vast Ancient let out a sigh as well. Even if we were lucky enough to undergo an ultimate awakening and become part of our ancestral clans, we would still be newborns despite how powerful our clans are. In order to reach the level of strength of these two corpses, I'm afraid he would have to go through many difficulties. Even if he had such strength in the end, he would still be inferior to Yuan. Dongbush Shuang nodded. For the sake of the younger generation, Yuan had left behind two terrifying corpses and created the Broken Teeth Mountain Range. It was likely that these two were not the only terrifying chaotic origin lifeforms that died in the hands of Yuan. As Dongbush Shuang and Supreme Vast Ancient conversed, they did not care about Great Emperor North River, who was not too far away. Vast Ancient, are you really not going to give me a way out? Great Emperor North River said. Dongbush Shuang turned to Great Emperor North River. He felt puzzled inwardly. This light ball dimension was also a dangerous place. Even though there were several strange treasures here, there was no place to escape to. Yet this Great Emperor North River seemed to have something he could rely on. North River, you are too ruthless in doing things. For the sake of achieving your goals, you are unscrupulous, Supreme Vast Ancient said. Even the 5 Supremes are merely opponents in your eyes. I admit that your strength isn't too far away from ours. You even gathered 36 God Generals. The Supremes are too lazy to fight for you. Yet you have offended Monarch Feishue. That is a huge mistake. Monarch Feishue has a huge influence on the battlefield. He is more useful than a large group of God Generals. Today, even if 2 Supremes work together, it would be hard for them to eliminate you. But with Monarch Feishue around, eliminating you is much easier. Great Emperor North River's expression was cold. Right. Even against 2 Supremes, he was confident of escaping. But Dongbush Shuang would greatly reduce his strength to the God General level. Fighting against the Supremes at the God General level? That was truly seeking death. I originally wanted to properly cultivate here and grab hold of the opportunity to step into the Supreme level. Great Emperor North River said solemnly. But who would have thought that while I was conserving the energy of the Thousand-Eyed Water Droplet, the two of you came? When did it become so easy to obtain supreme treasures? North River, I originally wanted to comprehend the Thousand-Eyed Water Droplet without consuming any energy. By then I would naturally give it to you. I've already sworn an oath. Do you think I would rather break off my path of cultivation and fall out with you? Dongbush Shuang said. You don't want to give others a way out, and now, you have no way out either. I believe you will not violate the oath. But once the news of the Thousand-Eyed Water Droplet spreads, even the Supremes would covet it. Who knows what would happen? Great Emperor North River said. Even if you and I work together, we can't stop the Supremes? Dongbush Shuang said. As time passes, who knows what would happen? It is better for me to obtain it earlier and enter the Snake-Tooth Corridor. Great Emperor North River sneered. Supreme Vast Ancient added from the side. If you did not fall out with Feishue, not only would you get this droplet, you might even have the chance to get a second one in the future. I, North River, am already satisfied with a single supreme treasure at the Great Emperor level. I have never dared to dream of getting a second one. Great Emperor North River nonchalantly said. Furthermore, given the personality of Monarch Flying Snow, I believe he disliked people like me from the start. If not for me wanting to conquer many worlds in the past, I wouldn't have done so. If not for those ants, this Monarch Feishue would not have helped me. Have you decided? Supreme Vast Ancient suddenly said. Dongbush Shuang felt slightly puzzled. Decided? Decided what? You all aren't giving me a way out? Do I have a choice? Great Emperor North River sneered. Humph, all 5 of you great supremes are too afraid to gamble. You have been holing up in the Broken Tooth Mountain Range. That's fine too. Let me go. Who knows, I might even reach the ultimate awakening before all of you. Great Emperor North River then turned to Dongwu Shuang, grinning. Monarch Feishua, you are the strongest expert in the Tao of Soul in the history of the realm Heart Great Land Broken Tooth Mountain Range. You have helped me greatly, yet you have left me with no path of retreat. Haha, that's fine too. This is also my style of doing things. Not giving myself a path of retreat, haha. The next time we meet, I might have become a chaotic origin life form. Haha. The moment he finished speaking, Great Emperor North River directly charged towards a piece of black rock by the side. Gudong! Ripples formed on the surface of the black rock. Great Emperor North River charged into it before disappearing from the vicinity. What? Dongwu Shuang was startled. Great Emperor North River did not choose to escape to other places. Instead, he chose to escape into this light ball dimension that seemed to be a dead end. After arriving here, Supreme Vast Ancient did not continue acting. Great Emperor North River seemed to have something to rely on. Everything was clear now. So he could rely on the huge black rock by his side to escape. What is this huge black rock? Dongwu Shuang asked. You will know once you thoroughly sense it, Supreme Vast Ancient said. This is a path Yuan left behind for us, and also another path for you cultivators of the Great Land. This is the largest light ball dimension within your consciousness. You can see the true side of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range from here. At the same time, there is a passage here that could lead you out of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range, and out of the realm Heart Great Land to a slightly more unique territory in the chaotic origin dimension. Supreme Vast Ancient was still sighing. His eyes were filled with envy and expectation. Dongwu Shuang had already walked to the front of the huge black rock. He sent a strand of his consciousness in. Hong, since you can't advance any further, then go to other civilizations. Temper yourself under different civilizations and compete with experts from different civilizations. Grasp that tiny bit of eternity in the Tao and jump out of the cage. Jump out of the restraints of countless civilizations and become a magnificent chaotic origin life form. A grand voice reverberated in his consciousness. At that moment, Dongwu Shuang was enlightened. This voice should be Yuan. And this was the final path that the experts of the Broken Tooth Mountain Range in Realm Heart Great Land could choose after failing to break through the Snake Tooth Corridor. Chapter 1278. Hong. His consciousness permeated through the huge black rock. Other than hearing that grand sound, he could also sense the teleportation tunnel. This was a technique more profound than the Great Destruction Realm teleportation technique. With a slight sense, he could sense the other end of the teleportation tunnel, a region that was incomparably far away. It was too far away from the realm Heart Great Land. Dongwu Shuang had once traveled between his hometown Primal Chaos Void and the realm Heart Great Land. The distance between these two places was considered far, but compared to the distance teleported by this huge black rock, it was many times further away. It was an extremely remote region. Furthermore, he could vaguely sense violence and chaos. Furthermore, just by sensing it from afar, the terrifying law of that region had actually affected Dongwu Shuang, affecting Dongwu Shuang's body, causing his strength to drop by 10%. Did you sense it? Supreme Vast Ancient said from the side. That region is absolutely not an ordinary origin world. It is impossible for an origin world to affect our strength just by sensing it from such a far distance. Furthermore, reaching our level, it is pointless to send us to other origin worlds. I suspect it might be a slightly unique region in the chaotic origin dimension. Dongwu Shuang nodded as he listened. It was indeed strange. Just sensing it from such a far distance was enough to affect his strength. That was too frightening. It is too far away from the realm Heart Great Land. It is so far that the moment we leave, we might never return. Furthermore, Yuan mentioned that we have to temper ourselves under different civilizations and compete with experts from different civilizations. Supreme Vast Ancient said, I'm afraid we will meet a group of opponents who could fight against us. I have reached Grand Perfection Emperors, yet I can still meet opponents. This huge black rock seems to lead to a very strange region. We Supremes are not willing to fight until the very last moment. Supreme Vast Ancient said. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Once we are done, you can come back and explore it. It is time for us to leave. Supreme Vast Ancient chuckled. Let's go. Dongbu Shuang also chuckled and accompanied Supreme Vast Ancient. They left this light ball dimension together. Before leaving, Dongbu Shuang could not help but look around. Through the membrane, he could see the two terrifying chaotic origin life-form corpses in Broken Teeth mountain range. He then glanced at that huge black rock. So. The two left. Shao Qun accompanied Supreme Vast Ancient in his sea of consciousness, heading to the various light spheres. On the Meridian Channel, Dongbu Shuang closed in quickly, but he gradually stopped. Hoo-hoo-hoo. The black wind whistled and blew on his body. Although it was not as violent as the black vortex at the entrance of the snake-tooth corridor, the black wind was still very corrosive. It consumed the power of the snake-tooth pearl that Dongbu Shuang carried with him. He ignored the black wind and tried his best to move forward. However, the oppressive feeling emitted by the light sphere in front of him continued to increase. The closer he got, the stronger the pressure became. I can't take it anymore. Dongbu Shuang suddenly felt dizzy. His consciousness was blurry, and his soul was in pain. Retreat! He could only turn into a beam of light and retreat rapidly. As he retreated at high speed, the pressure on him weakened rapidly, and he felt much more relaxed. Just a little bit more. I didn't think that if even you, Imperial Emperor Fei Xue, can't enter, who can? Supreme Vast Ancient shook his head. The pressure is too terrifying. Dongbu Shuang sighed. He was very confident in his soul techniques, but he had still been forced to retreat. Haha, let's go to the next one. Supreme Vast Ancient didn't seem to mind at all. He continued to lead Dongbu Shuang. If he could enter on his own, he would have long since entered. He had sent Dongbu Shuang there, but now, he was unable to enter. That was why he had sent Dongbu Shuang to try. It was another light ball dimension. Although the pressure was still very strong, as Dongbu Shuang drew closer, he couldn't help but feel delighted. It seems to be a bit easier? I might be able to enter now. His premonition was right. Although he was very close to the light sphere and the pressure was very strong, Dongbu Shuang was still able to enter it before he reached his limits. Good! When Autarch Vast Ancient saw this, a look of delight appeared on his face. Buzz! Within the light sphere. After Dongbu Shuang entered, he saw many sparkling snowflakes floating around. With a glance, there were more than 100 million of them. Countless snowflakes floated around, causing the entire light sphere to feel like a dream. This is? Dongbu Shuang had a guess at that moment, memory fragments. He had long heard from Supreme Vast Ancient that there were some remnant memory fragments in the space of light, and the memory fragments in the sea of consciousness were divided into different categories. If there were memory fragments in every ball of light, they would all be of the same type. These memory fragments were not dangerous. Even after those terrifying chaotic origin lifeforms fell, the remnant memory fragments would leave a deep impression on them. What is this? Dongbu Shuang sent a strand of his consciousness into one of the floating snowflakes in front of him. At the moment he sent his consciousness in, his consciousness boomed. He saw a huge snake. This snake was incomparably huge. It was entrenched within a piece of dark gray chaotic origin dimension. It let out a furious roar. Clearly, it was infuriated. Following that strange snake tail flashed before piercing through trillions of spatial zones. It was as if the snake tail had split into trillions. The trillions of snake tail pierced through trillions of spatial zones. At the same time, it faintly pierced through an equally terrifying existence. That existence was incredibly powerful. There were unseen laws that interfered with the other party. Dongbu Shuang could not see the appearance of the other party at all. This memory fragment was gone. Battle? Dongbu Shuang thought, just a single move. He could see that the battlefield was within the chaotic origin dimension. The terrifying chaotic origin energy that corroded him was like air to the huge snake. A single move from the huge snake had affected so many spatial zones. And an expert that could fight against the huge snake without losing out should not be too far from Yuan, even if he was not as strong as Yuan. Following that, Dongbu Shuang continued looking at other memory fragments. More than 100 million memory fragments. Dongbu Shuang consecutively looked through more than 100 memory fragments. All of them were actually of the huge snake executing its snake tail, piercing through trillions of spatial zones. This technique would almost always strike the enemy in the end. Finally, there's one that is slightly different. Dongbu Shuang saw another memory fragment. In that memory fragment, the huge snake was meandering through the vast primal chaos void. He could clearly see that its body was longer than an origin world. But in terms of size, it was much smaller than an origin world. When he finished looking through the millions of memory fragments, Dongbu Shuang made his judgment. He saw a total of 3 types of memory fragments. One was the stabbing technique executed by the snake tail, another was the flying of the huge snake, and the last was the scene of the huge snake coiling around its body and turning into an illusory slumber. Every time it fell asleep, it would completely turn into an illusory state. Even though there are more than 100 million memory fragments, I've randomly chosen a few million memory fragments without any pattern, only to find that all of them are of these 3 types. Shuang thought, I'm afraid that all the memory fragments are of these 3 types. And these 3 are unquestionably memory fragments for the Tao of Void. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes brightened. He was very excited. It was normal for him to see memory fragments. Supreme Vast Ancient and the others had seen them before. But this was the first time he saw them, and he discovered that they were memory fragments for the Tao of Void. Naturally, Dongbu Shuiying was delighted. The huge snake was an innate chaotic origin life form. The techniques it executed were innate. It's just that the huge snake had unleashed them to a certain pinnacle. Otherwise, it would not be qualified to challenge Yuan. These 3 techniques allowed Dongbu Shuiying to feel the direction of the chaotic origin level in the Tao of Void. Strictly speaking, these were 3 different directions. Just like the chaotic origin 7 strikes, it allowed Dongbu Shuiying to trace back to the foundation of the void, the chaotic origin energy. As for the supreme secret impartation technique Void Blossom that Emperor Summer acquired, it was a form of life energy that was not any weaker than the chaotic origin energy. Different directions determined the grasp of different energy. I am still far from reaching the chaotic origin level. Dongbu Shuiying was clear of this point. How hard was it to reach the final realm from level 2 Cosmos God? How many difficulties did he overcome? And from the final realm to the chaotic origin level. In reality, this was the most fundamental leap from an origin world life form to a chaotic origin life form. How many absolute experts were stuck at this step? Ever since the birth of the Realm Heart Great Land, Undying Underworld Emperor, Emperor Summer, Limitless City Master, Ancestor Fan, none of them could become a chaotic origin life form. Like Dongbu Shuiying's hometown origin world, there had never been anyone in history who could become a chaotic origin life form. Becoming a chaotic origin life form was an unfathomably difficult step. He had to calm his heart and make preparations to advance step by step. Chi! Dongbu Shuiying stood within this light ball dimension. His body split into a white-robed figure. One person turned into 2. I'll leave an avatar here. There aren't any dangers here, and there's no need for me to rely on the energy from the snake-tooth bead to protect myself. I'll let this avatar stay here and comprehend these memory fragments. Dongbu Shuiying thought. Even though he only sent an avatar into the snake-tooth corridor, with his strength, he could refine another avatar at any time. At this moment, he left an avatar here while the other avatar with the snake-tooth bead rapidly left the light ball dimension. Chapter 1279. Outside the clump of light dimension. Dombush Shuang followed the meridian pathway and soon arrived before the expectant autarch vast ancient. How is it? Autarch vast ancient asked. It's a memory fragment dimension. There are no treasures that can be taken away, Dombush Shuang said. Oh. Autarch vast ancient pondered as he glanced at the other regions. Only by entering the memory fragments and personally viewing them would he be able to gain something. Under the pressure of the soul, he was unable to enter. Naturally, it was useless. However, he didn't mind it too much. After all, memory fragments were only useful if they were related to his own power. Otherwise, their usefulness was negligible. The first time Dombush Shuang had entered his sea of consciousness, he had obtained a fiery feather. He had thought that it wouldn't be too difficult to take away treasures. Alas, he soon realized that he was wrong. There were only a few hundred clumps of light in the entire sea of consciousness. Excluding the ones he couldn't enter, and those which Autarch Vast Ancient had entered before, there were only 56 clumps of light that he could enter. Of these 56 clumps of light, only 33 had treasures. The vast majority of them were terrifyingly powerful. Dombush Shuang was completely swept away, unable to take away any treasures at all. There were only 7 clumps of light. Although Dombush Shuang had a chance of taking away the treasures, it was just a chance. South Dombush Shuang staggered out of one of the clumps of light and landed on the meridian pathway. He held a black scale in his hand. You got it? Autarch Vast Ancient, who was at the distant node, revealed a look of joy when he saw this. He immediately flew over, no longer caring about expending any more energy from the snake-tooth pearl. That was a close shave. I was lucky to get it. Dombush Shuang looked at the black scale in his hand and sighed. The thing that attracted him the most in the clumps of light was a fang. It was as sharp as a blade, but the power of the fang was simply too great. Just the invisible aura it emanated was enough to force him to the point where he was unable to approach it. If he was at Autarch Vast Ancient's level of strength, he might be able to forcibly resist it and continue approaching. Although this black scale was extremely difficult to obtain, he still managed to succeed after 5 tries. All right. When Autarch Vast Ancient received the black scale and sensed the deep destructive power contained within it, he revealed a look of joy. He smiled at Dombush Shuang. Emperor Feishue, according to our previous agreement, as long as you help me gather 3 treasures, you will be able to move freely. Now you are free to go. I thought that it would be easier to gather the 3 treasures. I didn't expect that after so many times, my snake-tooth pearl's energy would be depleted by more than half, Dombush Shuang said helplessly. Those who need to return will probably have to do so. He had no intention of returning. He had to use every last bit of the snake-tooth pearl's power. Haha, I have to thank Monarch Feishue this time around. Autarch Vast Ancient was very satisfied with his gains. I still have a long way to go before my snake-tooth pearls run out of energy. I'm planning to go somewhere else. Do you want to come with me? No need, Dombush Shuang replied. Autarch Vast Ancient nodded. Then I'll be leaving first. Swoosh! He immediately transformed into a streak of light and flew off into the distance. The snake-tooth corridor was extremely large, and even the brain of the serpents was extremely vast. The sea of consciousness was just a bit special. It only occupied a small corner of the snake-tooth corridor. Autarch Vast Ancient quickly passed through the membrane and left the sea of consciousness, heading towards the other areas of the snake-tooth corridor. Swoosh! Dombush Shuang quickly left the sea of consciousness as well. After spending a few seconds, he passed through the blood-colored membrane of the sea of consciousness and followed the path he had come from. His flying speed was much slower than Autarch Vast Ancient's, and it took him more than 3 days to reach his destination. I'm here. Dombush Shuang flew towards the towering, mountain-like Snake-Tooth Mountain. The Snake-Tooth Mountain was pitch black, and countless cracks could be seen around it. Swoosh! He shot into the skies and flew towards the peak of the Snake-Tooth Mountain. Chi! 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 countless void cracks appeared. Dongbu Shuang could sense them and evade them in advance. When he arrived at the peak of the Black Snake-Tooth Mountain, he could see with a single glance that the tip of the snake tooth was incredibly sharp. Dongbu Shuang could imagine the scene of this enormous snake biting its enemies. This snake tooth was most likely much more terrifying than his simplified chaotic origin weapon. The tip of the towering Black Snake-Tooth Mountain was extremely sharp. It was like an array formed by countless blades. Furthermore, there were blades everywhere. Under Dongbu Shuiying's careful observation, he could see the blades becoming bigger and bigger in his vision, until they were bigger than a continent. He could clearly see the strange structure within the blades. Interesting. Dongbu Shuiying was startled. He frowned slightly. He rapidly descended and sat cross-legged on the peak of the Snake-Tooth Mountain. He sat cross-legged in between the two blades. He was carefully comprehending. At this void Snake-Tooth Mountain, there were no dangers or ambushes. It did not consume any energy from the snake-tooth bead either. Hence, Dongbu Shuiying could cultivate to his heart's content. One of his avatars was currently within a light ball dimension, observing those memory fragments and comprehending them. The other avatar with the snake-tooth bead was currently at the peak of the Black Void Snake-Tooth Mountain. In reality, the moment Dongbu Shuiying saw the internal structure of the Void Snake-Tooth Mountain, he had been attracted. Why? Because this structure was actually very similar to the Chaotic Origin Refinement Body third level that he deduced. The third level of Chaotic Origin Refinement Body, Dongbu Shuiying's original intention was to create a perfect body refinement technique. The previous initial version was the result of the clash of intelligence between him and Emperor Summer. This initial version had given him and Emperor Summer the strength of ordinary unparalleled experts just based on their bodies. But the initial version was still simple and crude. There were many imperfections. Both Dongbu Shuiying and Emperor Summer wanted to walk in their own direction. Hence, they temporarily parted ways. This void Snake-Tooth Mountain. Dongbu Shuiying delightfully immersed himself in it. The internal structure of the countless blades was incredibly profound. Dongbu Shuiying absorbed it. Combining it with his original comprehension, finally, the second version of the third level of Chaotic Origin Refinement Body gradually took shape. In the blink of an eye. It had been 1.8 billion years since Dongbu Shuiying entered the Snake-Tooth Corridor. At the peak of a towering black snake tooth, a white-robed Dongbu Shuiying sat cross-legged between two blades. He revealed a joyous look. This time, I will definitely succeed. I feel that it is sufficiently perfect. Let me give it a try. He immediately extended his right hand. Starting from the most minute changes in his body, his right hand underwent a qualitative change. Creating a body refinement technique was like this. Using one's own body to experiment, it would often cause one's body to disintegrate during the process. But as long as one's soul remained intact, one could easily condense a fleshy body with a thought. Chi. Dongbu Shuiying tried changing his right hand first. One could see Dongbu Shuiying's right hand's fingernails becoming sharper. They were like divine weapons. The skin on his fingers became harder and sharper. It felt as if the skin on his fingers were formed from countless blades. A terrifying power was accumulating in his right hand. Not good. Just by changing his right hand, Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed. The terrifying power contained in his right hand had placed a huge burden on his entire body. It felt as if his entire body would collapse if he continued changing it. Even maintaining a terrifying right hand had consumed the energy contained in his body at an insane rate. How could this be? Just maintaining the right hand has consumed my energy so quickly? Dongbu Shuiying felt incredibly anxious. Even if it was his fleshy body, it would most likely collapse in the time taken to brew a cup of tea. I failed. Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. Theoretically, a perfect fleshy body could exist for eternity. For instance, the third-level initial version of the Chaotic Origin Refinement Body consumed a negligible amount of energy. And it was very stable. But now, the second version he comprehended was very unstable. Even maintaining his right hand cost him a huge price. But this is already the most perfect cultivation technique I have comprehended. Dongbu Shuang shook his head. He knew that he had thought of everything he should. He felt that it was perfect and that he could not improve any further. But now, the outcome was far from what he expected. How about the power? Dongbu Shuang tried waving his hand. Si la. The 5 fingers on his right hand, no matter if it was his fingernails or his skin, had perfectly fused together with the countless blades on his skin. In an instant, 5 cracks were formed. Dongbu Shuang was slightly startled when he saw this. This was after all the snake-tooth corridor, and it was quite amazing for him to have such power, even though it is far from the grand perfection I seek. In terms of power, it is at least at the Emperor level. What he and Emperor Summer sought was grand perfection. In theory, the 3rd level grand perfection of the chaotic origin refinement body would at least have a half-chaotic origin life-form body. That was the power of a grand perfection emperor. Furthermore, the 2 of them desired to jump out of the cage and become a chaotic origin life form. No matter what, it is at least an initial emperor. Dongbu Shuang gave a self-deprecating laugh. How could it be that easy to become a chaotic origin life form? Even a half-chaotic origin life form body is still very far away. Previously, the initial version of the chaotic origin refinement body had the strength of a grand perfection king. But now, even though it was not stable, it was still an initial emperor. It should be around 30% of the strength when he used his chaotic origin weapon, Azure River Spear. Chapter 1280. I can't even stabilize it. This flaw is simply too huge. Dongbu Shuang calmed his heart and pondered over the cultivation technique he created. He even turned into a stream of light and flew towards the other towering black snake-tooth mountains. All 8 void snake-tooth mountains were surrounded by void cracks. Just looking at them would cause one's heart to tremble in fear. Dongbu Shuang stopped in midair. He could only see part of the snake-tooth mountain in his vision, but he could vaguely guess where the problem with his cultivation technique was. Dongbu Shuang shook his head. The black snake-tooth contains many profound mysteries of the Tao of Void. It is clearly at the chaotic origin level, and its level is much higher than mine. Nevertheless, this snake-tooth is ultimately used for offense. The structure of the countless blades at the peak of the snake-tooth is also used for offense and slaughter. I wish to absorb the profound mysteries and fuse them into my body. Naturally, my offense would be strong, but it would be hard for me to stabilize it. Could a purely offensive item be stabilized? Yes. For instance, a chaotic origin weapon. Or this void snake-tooth. Both were offensive items. Similarly, they could stabilize their existence for eternity. But comparatively speaking, it was easier to balance the various aspects of the body. But it was much harder to maintain a balance with an aggressive attack. It's a pity that I don't have any other materials that I can use for reference. Dongbu Shuang shook his head. Even though he had viewed the memory fragments, he could only view some scenes and could not truly analyze them. Like this snake-tooth, he could see the internal structure of it. From there, he could modify the structure of his own body. Chaotic origin weapons are basically chaotic origin sand. They are non-living objects. Dongbu Shuang shook his head. The snake-tooth is after all a part of the body. Let's go and have a look at other places. Dongbu Shuang had memorized the internal structure of the snake-tooth. Furthermore, he could not improve on it within a short period. Hence, it was meaningless for him to stay here. So, turning into a stream of light, Shuang continued flying in the snake-tooth corridor. In the following days, Dongbu Shuang explored the snake-tooth corridor to his heart's content. There was no helping it. Although he had asked Supreme Vast Ancient about the snake-tooth corridor, and Supreme Vast Ancient had told him a lot about the Tao of Void, Supreme Vast Ancient's answer was, "The 8 void snake fangs are the most conspicuous. As for the others, I haven't discovered anything related to the Tao of Void. Of course, I'm not proficient in void techniques, and my eyesight isn't good enough. It's possible that I can't see anything related to the Tao of Void." As for the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm, although the Snake-Tooth Corridor was a legendary forbidden ground, there was nothing related to it. Hometown, Primal Chaos Void, Myriad Ancient Sacred World. In a small city, Dongbu Shuang and Jing Qiu were currently at a wine shop by the roadside, enjoying the unique delicacies and wine of this wine shop. The waiters of the tavern were serving the customers attentively. They dashed around the tavern and served delicious food and wine. "Third brother, have you paid enough to become my disciple?" "Big brother, rest assured. It's about time. The next time the Fu Tian sect accepts disciples, I'll be able to take them as my teacher. By then, I'll definitely cultivate to the Void God realm." By the side, the waiters were slightly free. Two young waiters were conversing with one another. And what realm did Dongbu Shuang and Jing Qiu have? They could easily hear the voice transmissions of the two true gods. Jing Qiu softly said, "In this era, there are still many beings cultivating and risking their lives. Nevertheless, the entire primal chaos void is expanding continuously. It's getting closer to the great apocalypse. It's still too early." Dongbu Shuang chuckled. "There are still more than 10 trillion years." "That's right. But during the great apocalypse, everything will become empty. There are only a few that you can bring away, Snow Eagle." Jing Qiu looked at those young waiters who were filled with vigor. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Bringing living beings to other origin worlds was not an easy task even for him who had reached the final realm in the Tao of Void. Even his loved ones and good friends had to be brought over many times. Hence, it was destined that he could only bring a few. This era. Dongbu Shuang was currently the strongest expert standing at the apex in both his hometown and in the realm Heart Great Land. But similarly, he had many unfinished matters. For instance, the enemy who killed his teacher Gu Qi, Sacred Master. Dongbu Shuang was naturally not willing to let the Sacred Master who had killed countless people live. But if we were to reach the next era, even if we could resist against the supreme law, we would still fall into a deep slumber during the incubation period of the next era. Dongbu Shuang understood this point. "I am stronger than Sacred Master. It is possible for me to fall into a deep slumber for a longer period. During this period, there might be variables. It was impossible to resist against the supreme law within an origin world. Even terrifying chaotic origin experts like Yuan and Lord Locheng would be suppressed after entering an origin world. Hence, the strength they could exert was limited. If I want to kill him, this era is the best opportunity. But in the past, when Sword Master pursued after Sacred Master many times, he could only injure Sacred Master lightly. Sacred Master did not even lose more than half of his life force. Currently, I can only maintain my strength at the unparalleled level. I am slightly stronger than Sword Master." Dongbu Shuang was clear that unparalleled strength could not kill ordinary Final Realm experts in a single move. Even if he had many avatars, he could not do so. Currently, Sacred Master was hiding in the Lost World Corridor. It was hard to find him. After all, the moment Sacred Master transformed into an ordinary destruction devil, Shuang could not even recognize him. He ultimately did not have the ability to trace a Final Realm expert. "Wait till I become stronger. I will sweep across the entire Lost World Corridor. No matter what, I will absolutely not allow Sacred Master to live till the next era." A cold light flashed in the eyes of Dongbu Shuang. Previously, he was not confident. But the improvement of his chaotic origin refinement technique had given him confidence. As long as his body refinement technique improved slightly, he would be able to sweep across all enemies. Within the consciousness of the Forbidden Ground Snake-Tooth Corridor, within the largest light ball dimension, Dongbu Shuang came here once again. During this period of exploration, the snake-tooth bead energy in his body had been consumed to the last strand. Standing in this light ball dimension, Shuang looked at the enormous snake corpse and the thousand-eyed monster corpse in the Broken Teeth mountain range. "I am unparalleled in the realm Heart Great Land and the primal chaos void. There are many emperors in the Broken Teeth mountain range who are stronger than me, but they cultivate their bloodline energy. It isn't helpful to me at all." Dongbu Shuang shook his head. But even after cultivating to this stage, my Tao of mirage and illusory realm has yet to reach the final realm, much less the chaotic origin level. My Tao of void isn't even stable enough to become an initial emperor. I am still far from reaching the chaotic origin level. I should just immerse myself in cultivation. How difficult is it to break through to the chaotic origin level using strength? Dongbu Shuang sighed. Perhaps it might be more hopeful for him to cultivate more Tao paths and control the origin source of an origin world? Spreading faith and using the faith of all living beings to control the origin of the world? It was too difficult to gain the faith of a cultivator who pursued freedom. As for soul control, Dongbu Shuang was also very disdainful. Let's go take a look at other civilizations. What kind of place is it? Just by sensing it from afar, it could instill fear in me and affect my strength. Dongbu Shuang arrived before that huge black rock. Previously, Great Emperor North River had entered and left. For example, the 5 great supremes who had come here before all sensed that this was an extremely dangerous path, so they wouldn't rashly choose this path. Dongbu Shuang was too young. Even if Shuang did not roam the world and just focused on cultivation, with his cultivation speed, it was still possible for him to reach the chaotic origin level. But, isn't it just a clone? Dongbu Shuang had countless clones, so why would he care about a single clone? Let's go and take a look. Dongbu Shuang's body was filled with curiosity and anticipation as he came into contact with the black boulder. He was instantly sucked into it. Chapter 1281. So, Dongbu Shuang only felt his entire body being wrapped within a blood-red water bubble. Closely following that, he was rapidly shuttling through the vast chaotic origin dimension. Too fast! Dongbu Shuang looked around him. He could see the outside world through the water bubble. But everything became blurry. Furthermore, there was a vast origin world that disappeared from his vision with a schwa. He could not even see what that origin world looked like. Following that schwa, many origin worlds flashed and disappeared. Occasionally, he would see some huge chaotic origin lifeforms. He could barely discern their silhouettes before the other party disappeared from his vision. Who is that? He is so formidable in traveling through the chaotic origin dimension? An enormous multi-headed monster with more than 100 pairs of eyes stared at the direction where that streak disappeared. He could not help but mutter inwardly. Such a terrifying chaotic origin expert would most likely look down on me. But it's better for me to hide further away. This multi-headed monster immediately changed his direction. It was much faster than when he relied on the Realm Heart order to arrive at the Realm Heart Great Land. It was also much faster than when he executed the Great Destruction Realm Teleportation Technique. The Great Destruction Realm Teleportation Technique was created by sneaking around and carefully separating the chaotic origin energy before proceeding forward. But now that he was wrapped within this blood-red water bubble, he was proceeding forward openly. Chaotic origin energy could not disturb him at all. Furthermore, it was so fast that even chaotic origin lifeforms could barely see a trace of it before disappearing from their senses. It was too fast. This blood-red water bubble wrapped around Dongbu Shuang as it passed through over 300 origin worlds. Dongbu Shuang had memorized every single one of them. Hong long long. Suddenly, a golden world appeared in the distance. That golden world emitted golden lightning that clashed against the chaotic origin energy of the chaotic origin dimension. This made Dongbu Shuang startled and puzzled. Why is it like this? The origin worlds I have seen before have always coexisted perfectly with the chaotic origin dimension. The ripples emitted by the origin world forced the chaotic origin energy to retreat slightly. Both did not clash too much. But why would this world clash so much with the chaotic origin dimension? He was still puzzled in his heart. This blood-red water bubble wrapped around Dongbu Shuang before charging into that golden lightning world. It was too fast. The blood-colored bubble arced through the chaotic origin dimension, leaving behind a blood-red afterimage. Even though the golden lightning world was abnormally violent, and many lightning bolts struck against the surrounding chaotic origin dimension, the chaotic origin dimension could not withstand it. However, it was unable to shake the blood-colored bubble in the slightest. The blood-colored bubble forcefully dispersed all the lightning that came towards it, and instantly rushed into the world of golden lightning. What happened? Who has come to our world? Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Under the protection of the blood-colored bubble, Dongbush Shuang forced his way into this world. Very soon, 3 figures appeared from the golden lightning world. The 3 of them emitted the aura of a chaotic origin expert. Their auras were grand and mighty. They even caused the surrounding golden lightning and chaotic origin energy to become much more docile. The 3 of them carefully looked around, using all sorts of tracing and time reversal techniques to investigate. No! I clearly sensed that a foreign object had rushed into our world. But why couldn't he find anything? Last time, I also sensed a foreign object coming in, but I couldn't find it. Strange. After discussing with each other, the 3 of them had no choice but to retreat for the time being. Pun. Dongbush Shuang remained within the blood-colored bubble. He could only feel the violent and crazy golden lightning constantly striking against this blood-colored bubble. It made Dongbush Shuang feel the threat of death. But everything was blocked by the blood-colored bubble. Such madness and violence. Previously, the world I sensed in the light ball dimension in the snake-tooth corridor should be this world. Dongbush Shuang deduced. Who? The blood-colored bubble had already rushed into the golden lightning world. With a flash, it disappeared into a certain location. This speed. Dongbush Shuang currently stood on a piece of wilderness. He revealed a bitter smile. Previously, he felt that he had just passed through the golden lightning world, and the next moment, he arrived at this wilderness. Because the speed was too fast, he could not see it clearly at all. But it was normal. An existence as big as an origin world could easily pass through with the speed of the blood-colored bubble. It was so fast that he could not see it clearly. If I activate it, I can head to the next world? Dongbush Shuang lowered his head and looked at his wrist. A blood-colored imprint appeared on his wrist. Following that, the imprint disappeared and concealed itself. The energy contained within this blood-colored bubble could be activated twice more. Every time it was activated, it could send him to another world. 3 worlds with different civilizations. This was an opportunity given by Yuan to those experts who could reach the depths of the consciousness of the snake-tooth corridor. Great Emperor North River should have arrived at this world too. Suddenly, Shui Ying's expression changed. Every part of his body was undergoing a transformation. It was as if the bricks and stones of a skyscraper were breaking apart. Naturally, the entire skyscraper was also gradually entering the state of collapse. Why is this happening? My body, why is my body? Dongbush Shuang started panicking. His body was collapsing. And it was collapsing from every single particle. Not just that, Dongbush Shuang could feel his perception of the surrounding void becoming blurry. Being a final realm Tao of Void expert, his control of the void was incredibly formidable. But the space of this world did not seem to be obedient. Most of the profound mysteries he grasped in the Tao of Void were ineffective before the space of this world. Voidification? He tried voidification. The surrounding void slightly warped, yet his body did not transform. It was still collapsing. Why is this happening? I am a final realm Tao of Void, so why is my Tao of Void useless? Different origin worlds would have different low-leveled laws. But cosmos gods have their own laws, and the Tao of cosmos gods should be universal across many origin worlds. Dongbush Shuang was suddenly stunned. But what if I didn't enter an origin world? Judging from the situation when he was teleported in, that golden lightning world was constantly charging against the chaotic origin dimension. It was violent and crazy. Both worlds could not coexist perfectly. And this is the Great Earth. Dongbush Shuang looked down at the ground. He lightly extended his hand to touch it. The soil and gravel on the ground were extremely heavy. It even contained a dense aura of chaotic origin energy. It felt as if every piece of soil and gravel was condensed from chaotic origin energy. Every piece of soil and gravel was incredibly heavy. Ordinary true gods could not even lift up a fist-sized rock. The gravitational force was ridiculously strong. The entire world was emitting a crazy aura of chaos and violence. The laws were also leaning towards chaos and violence. This shouldn't be an origin world. An origin world nurtures the myriad beings and protects their growth. How could it be so chaotic and violent? Dongbu Shuang thought. I understand now. The Tao at the cosmos god level is universal across many origin worlds. But this shouldn't be an origin world since even my Tao of Void is being greatly affected. Dongbu Shuang understood this point. The chaotic origin refinement body created based on the Tao of Void should be fundamentally incompatible with this world. That is why my body is starting to collapse? Even though his body was collapsing, Dongbu Shuang did not panic. Because he discovered a piece of good news other than the bad news. My Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm isn't affected at all. Dongbu Shuang was inwardly delighted. The Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm was a Tao of Soul. It targeted the soul. Soul, no matter the many origin worlds or even this world which he entered, they should be fundamentally the same. He could similarly use the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm. But my body, Dongbu Shuang was slightly anxious. His body was starting to collapse from the most minute parts. Unless he was relying on his soul to roam outside? Previously, when I controlled the Tao of Void, I discovered that most of the techniques are ineffective, yet there are some parts that are still useful? Dongbu Shuang rapidly deduced. His soul was exceptionally strong. Even at this place, he could still connect with the memories of his avatars in the Realm Heart Great Land and Primal Chaos Void. For a moment, many avatars were doing their best to deduce the current situation. He had to resolve this predicament as soon as possible. No matter what, he had to maintain his fleshy body. Just as Dongbu Shuang was seated cross-legged in the wilderness, trying his best to slow down the collapse of his body and deducing at the same time. The fluctuations caused by the unstable aura of his body had already attracted an uninvited guest. So, a black light shot down from the horizon towards Dongbu Shuang. Dongbu Shuang looked up. That was a bird with black feathers all over its body. It had a pair of jade-green eyes and a wingspan of a few thousand meters. At this moment, this ferocious bird had already treated Shuang as its food, and it directly pounced down. Chapter 1282. This ferocious bird swooped down. The raging winds caused by its wings turned into countless wind blades that slashed through the air, whistling towards the area where Dongbu Shuang was. Some of the wind blades slashed over, and a black flower appeared around Dongbu Shuang. The black flower closed up to protect Dongbu Shuang, but the wind blades slashed onto the black flower, causing it to tremble as if it was about to collapse. Dongbu Shuang was not startled by this. Instead, he was delighted. What a formidable creature! My Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm, the illusory descent into reality, did not spend too much effort on direct combat. Nevertheless, these techniques are at the strength of ordinary cosmos gods. Just the wind blades produced by this bird's wings are so powerful that it should be at least at the level 2 cosmos god realm in direct combat. A killer move that descended from the void into reality. Dongbu Shuang had once researched on this technique when he was at the Primal Chaos Realm. Later on, after stepping into the Cosmos God Realm in the Tao of Void, Dongbu Shuang no longer researched on this technique. After all, even if he spent more effort, he would only reach the level 2 Cosmos God standard. After all, the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm wasn't specialized in direct combat. Doing so would be a waste of time. Since I've come to this world, I've finally met a living being. Dongbu Shuang was overjoyed. Buzz. A single thought. The Mirage and Illusory Realm had already enveloped that ferocious bird. That ferocious bird was originally abnormally violent, but following that, its eyes dimmed, and its body slammed into the ground with a loud bang, sending countless gravel flying. These gravel were extremely heavy, and it was rare for it to be able to send so much of it flying. Strange. Dongbu Shuang frowned slightly. This ferocious bird's consciousness was dragged into the mirage illusory realm, but its consciousness was obviously only slightly better than that of a wild beast. In its life, it had met a few humanoid experts, and some of them were eaten by it directly. There were some that it observed from afar and felt threatened, so it quickly fled, not daring to approach. There was very little useful information in the vicious bird's long lifespan. However, there were still many human experts who were seriously injured by it, or who shouted angrily before being swallowed. In total, there were thousands of sentences. Dongbush Shuang quickly deduced the language of this world. The information that could be deduced from these thousands of sentences was pitifully little. It knows so little. Forget it, let it go. Dongbush Shui Ying's heart stirred. The consciousness of this ferocious bird was too easily influenced by him, a peerless expert in the Tao of mirage and illusory realm. The ferocious bird that had crashed into the ground woke up in a daze. It looked around, and when it saw Dongbush Shuang, it was as if it had seen something terrifying. With a flap of its wings, it turned into a streak of light and flew away, disappearing into the distance. Dongbush Shuang watched from afar, and he pondered, in the memory of this ferocious bird, I don't think I saw any human experts that could teleport. Is teleportation very difficult in this world? He was a Void Tao Final Realm expert. Teleportation was like an instinct to him. But currently, many laws and profound mysteries related to the Tao of Void were incompatible with this world. Even his powerful fleshy body that was created by the chaotic origin refinement body was collapsing. Don't think too much about it. I'll stabilize my body first. Dongbush Shuang tried his best to stabilize his body. His avatars in both the Realm Heart Great Land and Primal Chaos Void Origin worlds had long found a direction. There were many laws and profound mysteries related to the final realm Tao of Void. Even though many were incompatible with this world, some were still useful. His current method was to use these laws and profound mysteries as a foundation to deduce more laws and profound mysteries that were compatible with this world. Furthermore, he had to modify the chaotic origin refinement body cultivation technique to make it simpler. The simpler it was, that would reduce the conflict he had with this world. If he could use the laws and profound mysteries related to this world to form a cultivation technique, there should be no conflict when he reconstructed his fleshy body. But that way, his fleshy body would be too weak. Hence, he had to form a balance between strength and stability. And this required time. A huge ship was currently flying at high speed amidst the clouds. The ship was luxurious, and there were many soldiers standing on the deck guarding the surroundings. And there was a pair of young and beautiful girls currently standing on the deck. They held onto the railings and looked down at the vast land beneath them. On the vast land, there was a lake sparkling in the distance. With a glance, one could see huge desolate beasts drinking water in that vast lake. The scenery of the great wilderness is really beautiful. A girl in a light blue robe chuckled. She looked at the scenery of the great wilderness illuminated by the sun. I really wish I could be like Big Brother in the past, roaming the great wilderness alone. Little miss, the great wilderness is very dangerous. The green-robed female attendant added. Those tribes that survive in the great wilderness are pathetically few in number. Furthermore, all of them have a hard time surviving. They have to fight against the desolate beasts. It is still fine if Little Miss brought along a large group of protectors, but to roam the great wilderness alone? That would at least have the strength of a god monarch. Big Prince is currently a peak stage god monarch. Sheer, are you saying that your Little Miss is not strong enough? The girl in a light blue robe looked at the female attendant and snorted. Little Miss has a noble bloodline. With the city master personally guiding you, it is naturally easy for you to become a god monarch. But now you are indeed lacking. The green-robed female attendant giggled. You are becoming more and more lawless. You even dare to tease your Little Miss. The girl in a light blue robe snorted coldly. But she soon chuckled. She had known this female attendant for too long. They had accompanied each other since they were young. Naturally, she did not mind. The girl in a light blue robe was enjoying the scenery of the great wilderness. With a large group of experts on the ship, those desolate beasts in the great wilderness would not dare to offend them. And then? The eyes of the girl in a light blue robe suddenly brightened. She pointed to the distance. Hurry up and look, there is someone there. The green-robed female attendant was startled too. There is really someone? Dongwu Shuang sat cross-legged in the wilderness. He had also noticed a huge ship flying over from the distance. The huge ship had a grand aura. There were no desolate beasts that dared to offend it. After deducing for half a day, I can barely maintain this fleshy body at the final realm. Dongwu Shuang felt helpless. He had used the laws and profound mysteries of the Tao of Void that would not cause any conflict with this world as the foundation to simplify the chaotic origin refinement body technique. Even though it was greatly simplified, there were still many profound mysteries that would cause conflict with the world. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to deduce a sufficiently powerful body refinement technique in a short period just by relying on those few profound mysteries. A technique that was too weak? Dongwu Shuang felt that it was too weak. Currently, I can barely maintain the stability of my fleshy body. Even though the interior of my body is crumbling slightly, the natural recovery of my body is able to offset this slight crumbling. Dongwu Shuang thought. His body was constantly in the state of injury and recovery. Currently, his recovery speed was greater than the rate of injury. Naturally, he could maintain his stability. At the very least, his fleshy body was maintained at the final realm's strength. One had to know that the initial version of the third level of the chaotic origin refinement body was at the unparalleled level. Furthermore, the second version that he pondered over had reached the initial emperor level. And now, it had fallen to the doorstep of the final realm. Furthermore, he had to suppress his injuries at all times. Next, I'll need time to slowly ponder over it. Dongwu Shuang thought. That huge ship flew above Dongwu Shuang. At the bow of the ship, that light blue-robed girl looked down curiously at Dongwu Shuang. Third Miss has saved my life before. I don't even have enough time to repay her kindness. Why would I repay her kindness with enmity? Dongwu Shuang replied. There are plenty of people who repay kindness with enmity. I've already said it, and you should remember it in your heart. But Le Yun glanced at Dongwu Shuang. His eyes were filled with coldness. He then turned around and left. The door closed. Dongwu Shuang sat down cross-legged by himself. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. He had just entered this world, and it was his weakest and most ignorant period. He was most afraid of accidentally exposing himself and attracting a huge wave of enemies. It might even become more and more chaotic. Those who could enter the Forbidden Ground Snake-Tooth Corridor had chosen to take the final gamble and were sent here by Yuan. How could such a place be ordinary? Dongwu Shuang shook his head. There should at least be existences that could threaten a grand perfection Emperor Realm Supreme, right? It was better to remain low profile in such a place. Dongwu Shuang was on the ship. He did not search the memories of others to prevent himself from being discovered. He merely used some simple techniques using the mirage and illusory realm to make others have a good impression of him. He deliberately led some people to say many things, allowing Dongwu Shuang to gradually understand more about the ascendants. So that's the case. Dongwu Shuang was enlightened. This world is the divine realm? There are many other lower-graded spaces that they call the lower realms. There are many spaces in the lower realms, and only the strongest experts can ascend to the divine realm? Brother Feishue. The one who was chatting with Dongwu Shuang was a protector by the side of the ship. The protector was also bored. He chuckled. I have only heard of ascendants in the past. You are the first ascendant I have met. According to the legends, even though there are quite a few ascendants who came to the divine realm, they are scattered across the vast divine realm. Naturally, there are very few of them. Furthermore, even if you are in front of me, I can't recognize you. This time, it is Housekeeper Yun who is here. Housekeeper Yun's jade light god eye is able to discern that you, Brother Feishue, do not have any chaotic origin ancestral god bloodline. Only then did he ascertain that you are an ascendant. It is all thanks to housekeeper Yun that I could board this ship. Dongbush Shuang chuckled. In his heart, he was memorizing the words chaotic origin ancestral god bloodline. Those who did not have chaotic origin ancestral god bloodline were ascendants. Then, the original citizens of this divine realm all had chaotic origin ancestral god bloodline? This chaotic origin ancestral god was a chaotic origin life form? Was he dead or alive? If he was a powerful living chaotic origin life form, then this world would be slightly frightening. You have to thank Third Lady. It is all thanks to Third Lady. Third Lady is a good person and saved you previously, that protector said. If not for Third Lady, why would housekeeper Yun waste his energy to deliberately use his god eye to observe you? Chapter 1284. The divine realm was vast. The ship flew amidst the clouds. According to Dongbush Shui Ying's inquiry, it would take another 2 months or so before they reached the high mountain city. During the days on the ship, Dongbush Shui Ying meditated and deduced the laws of the Tao of Void in this world. He was also gradually altering his chaotic origin refinement body technique, reducing the disintegration of his body. On the other hand, he had to deal with this third young lady, Nobike's Kiyoshi. That person called Xiang Pangyun, what happened to him in the end? He did not kill your little brother, right? Within a private room on the ship, Nobike's Kiyoshi and Dongbush Shuang were seated opposite each other. She nervously asked. During the most critical moment, I broke through and killed Xiang Pangyun. Dongbush Shuang chuckled. He recalled that scene when he was young and sighed. It's just that his parents and little brother were no longer around. But they had lived for a very long time. Even though he could rely on the illusory cosmos to recreate life. But what was the meaning of creating parents and little brother? Who? Nobike's Kiyoshi let out a sigh of relief. That's good. That's good. Even I feel flustered listening to it. Third young lady, since this Feishua could ascend to the divine realm, he must be an amazing character in the lower realm. Those who became enemies with him would likely not have a good ending. Housekeeper Yun chuckled from the side. That's true. Nobike's Kiyoshi nodded. Nobike's Kiyoshi suddenly asked. Oh right, God Monarch Feishua, what are your plans from now on? I've said before that I don't have a home in the divine realm. I will be roaming around. Dongbush Shuang chuckled. Why don't you stay in our high mountain city? Nobike's Kiyoshi added. The great wilderness is so dangerous. It is safer to stay in the city. I do intend to cultivate in the city for a period of time. However, the crisis that we've encountered this time around has made me feel that I'm still not strong enough. Dongbush Shuang nodded. You just stepped into the God Monarch stage and you dare to roam around in the great wilderness. Steward Yun sneered. Nobike's Kiyoshi said. Since Sir God Feishua wants to stay in the city to cultivate, it's a good thing. Oh right, Sir God Feishua, what level are your abilities at? Middle Divine Lord. Dongbush Shuang said. It's just that because of his heavy injuries, he hasn't been able to recover his strength. I believe that after a year or so, he would be able to recover to the God Monarch intermediate stage. Over the past few days, his body tempering technique had been gradually improving. His injuries had been alleviated, and his body had also become stronger. Oh? Butler Yun was slightly shocked when he saw this. Middle stage Divine Lord? Ascendants had truly cultivated step by step from being weak. They did not even have the help from the chaotic origin ancestral god bloodline. At the same level, ascendants would be much stronger than the natives of the divine realm. If this god monarch Feishua recovered his strength, he would reach the God Monarch intermediate stage. This strength should not be too far away from this Butler Yun. After all, he was only a late-stage God Monarch, though he had the Jade Light God Eye. His strength was slightly stronger than ordinary late-stage God Monarchs. All right. Nobike's Kiyoshi revealed a joyous look. You have the strength of a middle-stage God Monarch and are an ascendant. I will definitely convince my father and big brother. By then, God Monarch Feishua, you can take on the role of a cultivation tutor in my Imperial Wind clan. A cultivation tutor does not have any dangerous missions either. Only the core disciples of my Imperial Wind clan are qualified to ask for your guidance. With this identity, God Monarch Feishua would be different in the high mountain city. He would even be given some benefits at regular intervals. He would even be qualified to enter the scripture library to choose a cultivation scripture. If God Monarch Feishua is willing, you can contribute to the sect in exchange for more benefits. Dongbu Shuang felt his heart moving when he heard that. Scripture library? What was the most direct way to research the laws of a world? Naturally, it was to observe the cultivation techniques of other experts. Other experts had already concluded their cultivation paths. As long as he could observe them, it would be many times easier for him to research the laws of a world. Are there any scriptures regarding ascendance? Dongbu Shuang asked. Nobike's Kiyoshi revealed a delighted grin when she heard that. Her eyes turned into crescent moons. Cultivation scriptures regarding ascendance are extremely rare. But our high mountain Maka's clan still has quite a few of them. Then Feishua will be thick-skinned. Dongbu Shuang immediately thanked. Many thanks, Third Lady. Don't be happy too early. Not everyone is qualified to be a cultivation tutor. Butler Yun nonchalantly said. This still requires the agreement of Master and Young Master. Nobike's Kiyoshi replied confidently. Rest assured. Father and Big Brother will definitely agree. Butler Yun felt helpless when he saw that. Dongbu Shuang chuckled. He had only interacted with this third lady for a month, but he could still feel that this third lady was genuinely kind. Because she treated him well, she would always think for him. No wonder Butler Yun previously threatened him to not scheme against Third Lady. No matter what, I have just arrived in this world, and I have received quite a bit of grace from this Third Lady. I can only find an opportunity to repay her in the future. Dongbu Shuang thought. Either way, he planned to stay in the high mountain city for a period. After all, as long as it was a safe place, he could similarly research the laws of this world no matter where he was. There were hundreds of officers, soldiers, guards, servants, and so on the ship. Dongbu Shuiying's attainments in the Tao of Mirage and Illusory Realm had increased his charm, causing others to have a better impression of him. But because he could not do it too obviously, and the willpower of experts could not be easily shaken, there were still several who did not have a good impression of him, especially a protector who could be described as disgusted. This protector was called Tai Ching Lu. Tai Ching Lu was tall and big, albeit his eyes were cold. His relationship with the other protectors was average. He looked at Dongbu Shuang with a cold and disgusted gaze. Given how sharp Dongbu Shuang was in the soul, he could even feel some malicious intent. I have just arrived in this world and have never met him before. Why would he hate me so much? Dongbu Shuang felt puzzled. But he did not care. He was just a protector, and his strength was only at the peak of the God General realm. He was still a strand away from the God Monarch realm. But this strand was like a heavenly moat, and the gap in strength was too great. We have arrived. We have arrived at the high mountain city. On this day, cheers resounded from the ship. The third young miss, Butler Yun, the generals, the soldiers, and even the many servants standing on the bow of the ship were all overjoyed. After all, none of them dared to be careless while traveling in the great wilderness. High Mountain City! Dongbu Shuang was also looking from afar. That was an enormous city, though it was not as frighteningly vast as the cities in the realm Heart Great Land. According to Dongbu Shuiying's estimation, this high mountain city was just a few 100,000 kilometers in size. After all, the soil and sand in this world were ridiculously heavy. The difficulty of constructing such a city was not any less than constructing the capital of the Southern Cloud Nation. The controller of the high mountain city was none other than this Imperial Wind clan. On the day they arrived at the high mountain city, within a palace hall within the residence of the Imperial Wind clan, Dongbu Shuang met with the Crown Prince of the Imperial Wind clan. He was also the publicly acknowledged successor of the Imperial Wind clan, Minamoto no Raiki. Third sister, is this the ascendant you are praising? A tall and big male sat there. His eyes were faintly revolving with lightning. His power was extraordinary. Greetings, Crown Prince. Dongwu Shuang slightly bowed. Minamoto no Reiki chuckled when he saw that. It is said that ascendants are arrogant. Indeed, they live up to their reputation. After all, he was once the #1 expert in his hometown in the lower realm. It is natural for him to be arrogant. Seated by the side, Nobike's Kiyoshi added. It is said that it is hard for ascendants to cultivate in the divine realm. But God Monarch Feishue has reached the middle stage God Monarch realm. That is not easy at all. Minamoto no Reiki softly nodded. It is hard to come by. Since my little sister mentioned it, God Monarch Feishue, you can stay in my Maka's clan as a cultivation teacher in the future. I will arrange a good residence for you in the city. Many thanks, Crown Prince. Dongwu Shuang obediently replied. That's right. Seeing this Crown Prince Minamoto no Reiki, Dongwu Shuang merely said 2 sentences, greetings, Crown Prince, and many thanks, Crown Prince, before being arranged to leave. That Crown Prince Minamoto no Reiki was clearly more enthusiastic about discussing this journey with his little sister. A residence that occupied an area of half a kilometer, and 2 huge chests of treasures were bestowed. Teacher Feishue, the items have been delivered. The few of us will be leaving first. Many thanks, everyone. Dongwu Shuang watched as the soldiers of the Maka's clan left. Looking at this residence, he revealed a grin. This would be his home for a very long period in this world. On the second night after arriving at the high mountain city, Dongwu Shuang sat cross-legged in his cultivation room. At night, a red and a silver-white moon hung in the night sky. The moonlight illuminated the entire courtyard. It felt very quiet. Amen? Dongwu Shuang frowned slightly. How sharp was his soul perception. Killing intent came. Someone wants to kill me? Dongwu Shuang felt puzzled. It is only the 2nd day since I arrived at the high mountain city, and there are already people who want to kill me?